There are times when I stop and think, how did a cartoon from the 90s manage to be darker, deeper, and better written than half the shows we get today? Batman the Animated Series from 1992 isn't just nostalgia, it's a masterpiece. And in this video, we're going to revisit the entire story of the show. That's right, all 85 episodes, in one journey that takes us from midnight chases to deep psychological trauma, with iconic villains, brilliant plot twists, and scenes that still mess with your head even today. We'll remember how the Dark Knight first met the Riddler, fought Man-Bat mid-air, almost got taken down by a mobster ventriloquist, and even ended up in a parallel reality where his parents were still alive. There were episodes about family drama, identity crises, a complicated romance with Catwoman, and yes, even a guy trying to take over the world with Joker-faced fish. Gotham really is that weird, so get comfortable, because this video is going to be long, intense, and packed with moments that show exactly why this series became such a timeless reference. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, what are you waiting for? Let's get started. Gotham sleeps, but its streets still simmer with danger. A graceful leap, a scratch across the chest, and a single feline hair. That's all Batman manages to get from the thief who vanished into the shadows. It doesn't take long for him to realize his new adversary is someone far more feline than human. At a charity auction for abandoned animals, Bruce Wayne finds himself bought for $10,000 by a certain Selina Kyle. Mysterious, alluring, and talking about mountain lion sanctuaries. She seems more interested in the Dark Knight than the billionaire playboy. Meanwhile, Gotham goes on high alert. Red Claw, the world's most wanted terrorist, has been spotted in the city, and no one has a clue what she's planning. Selina's plans run deeper than Bruce suspects, but when she learns that her mountain lion sanctuary has been sold to a soulless corporation, Multigon, she bares her claws. Bruce tries to help. After all, her charm has definitely gotten to him, but the company's CEO is slipperier than a bar of soap in a cold shower and won't budge. Under the cover of night, while Batman takes on the mob in search of answers, Catwoman infiltrates Red Claw's lair. She's discovered, bolts through the vents, bullets and chaos trailing behind her. Batman shows up, of course. He saves his enemy, gets an unexpected kiss on the rooftop, and is left with the police sirens closing in. More confused than usual, and watching from afar is her, Selina Kyle, knowing too much, saying too little. Gotham loves a scandal, so when a winged creature starts soaring over the city, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake, it's no surprise that the usual suspect is back in the headlines. Batman, Detective Bullock, with all the charm of a rhinoceros in a suit, launches a task force to bring the vigilante in. Meanwhile, the real culprit, or rather the scientist behind the creature, remains hidden in the shadows. The clues lead Bruce Wayne to the Gotham Zoo and the Langstroms. Dr. and Mistress Bat play it cool, but the Bat computer doesn't lie. There's something rotten in that lab, and it's not just the smell of bats. Under pressure, Francine confesses through tears.
But it was too late. The beast knew what chemicals were needed to bring itself about.
The Man-Bat is real, and worse, he's after one last ingredient to complete his transformation, a monster with wings and instinct driven by chaos. The city becomes a battleground. Batman races to synthesize an antidote while evading a police force out for his head. High above Gotham, he confronts the beast, a showdown worthy of legend, and a cure administered in the nick of time. Kirk Langstrom returns to normal, for now. A night of glamour, tributes, and hypocrisy. Ferris Boyle, CEO of GothCorp, is being honored for his humanitarian efforts, even as his company faces a chilling wave of attacks. Literally, a new villain emerges, cloaked in ice and agony, Mr. Freeze. Batman uncovers that the stolen components are part of a monstrous device, a freeze cannon, but the villain's motive isn't greed, it's revenge. Video flashback, Victor Freeze, desperately trying to save his terminally ill wife, Nora, through cryogenics. Boyle, the CEO with a heart of permafrost, storms the lab and shoves Freeze into a vat of chemicals. The aftermath, a man who can only survive below zero, his heart frozen by grief. During the award ceremony, Mr. Freeze crashes the party, seeking justice, but Batman shows up, and with a flask of steaming chicken soup, yes, really, he thaws the villain's plans. The revealing footage sends Boyle straight to prison. In his icy cell, Victor whispers to a tiny statue of Nora, because some sorrows, not even time can melt. Lucius Fox is deceived. Bruce Wayne is framed for a crime he didn't commit, and the real culprit, a desperate actor longing for one last shot at fame. Matt Hagen, addicted to a shape-shifting cream, becomes a prisoner of his own vanity. When he tries to score more of the substance, he's punished with a massive overdose. His body collapses, and the actor becomes something beyond performance, a living mass of clay. Meanwhile, Batman starts piecing together the clues, and the puzzle leads to an imposter, one wearing his face. In an abandoned studio, Hagen resurfaces, but what returns is no longer a man. It's the birth of Clayface, and he's here to collect what the world owes him, with monstrous interest and payback. Meanwhile, Batman uncovers the final piece of the puzzle, Hagen. He's alive, and ready to steal the spotlight by force. During a live broadcast with Daggett, Hagen storms the studio and reveals himself to the world, not as a disfigured man, but as the vengeful creature known as Clayface. Batman tries to reach the man behind the monster, projecting scenes from old films, but Hagen doesn't want redemption. He wants the final act. In the ensuing battle, Clayface appears to dissolve after an electric shock, but something doesn't add up. The sample left behind is resilient, immune to electricity. It was all an act, Matt Hagen's greatest performance, and perhaps his last. Rupert Thorne thought he had won after a cinematic explosion leveled the restaurant where Arnold Stromwell was supposed to be. Gotham's crime throne seemed finally up for grabs. Thorne, now crowned king, had no idea his rival had slipped away, thanks to a certain meddling bat. Stromwell, still full of pride and stubbornness, isn't one to give anything up easily, but Batman knows how to play dirty, at least enough to hit a criminal's weakest spot, family. He takes Stromwell straight to a rehabilitation clinic. There, he comes face to face with his own son, Joey, shattered after an overdose on the same drugs his father has been pushing through the city. And to twist the emotional knife even further, his ex-wife hits him with a brutal truth bomb. Look at what you've done to your family. But not every mob boss has a soft heart. Stromwell still tries to save his skin, retrieving a stash of falsified accounting books, desperate to control the narrative to the bitter end. Lucky for him, Thorne's goons are always a step behind, until they're not. During a frantic escape, Stromwell runs straight into a ghost from his past, flesh and blood. Michael, your long-lost brother, now an amputee, reappears for a serious conversation. Memories of a childhood derailed by bad choices come flooding back, and at the climax, Thorne shows up for the grand finale. But this time, Stromwell picks the right side. He turns everything over to Commissioner Gordon, ready to bring down his own empire with his own hands. And as that empire crumbles, Gotham barely has time to catch its breath. Charlie Collins was just an ordinary guy, until he made the mistake of cursing out the wrong driver in traffic. That driver turned out to be the Joker, and when the Clown Prince of Crime takes note of your name and address, your life becomes a long, slow-burning thriller. Years later, the phone rings. The favor is being called in. Now living under a new identity and trying to forget that cursed day, Charlie is forced to do something simple: open a small service door during a high society dinner honoring Commissioner Gordon. Easy enough, right? That is, until he realizes he's just let the Joker and Harley Quinn sneak in, hidden inside a giant cake. Paralysis gas. A bomb disguised as a medal. The party turns into a nightmare, but Charlie's not as much of a coward as he seems. He manages to send a signal to Batman. The Dark Knight arrives just in time, disarms the bomb, and chases the Joker into a back alley. The twist? Charlie corners the Joker with one of his own bombs. Tables turned, clown.
Is that the great Joker was found blown to bits in an alley, alongside a miserable little nobody.
Batman steps in before things take a tragic turn, and with no way out, the Joker is arrested. For now, Charlie can finally breathe easy, until the next nervous breakdown. Meanwhile, a name begins to echo through Gotham's shadowy underworld: Red Talon. The target? A top-secret military train. The motive? A container carrying a viral plague capable of turning Gotham into a full-blown zombie apocalypse. Batman confronts the threat, and surprise, Red Talon is a woman, and a deadly one. Selina Kyle also steps into the picture. She and Bruce try to have a civilized date, but are ambushed mid-stroll. Coincidence? Not even close. Bruce smells Multigon's involvement, a corrupt corporation battling over a protected nature reserve with, believe it or not, Selina. Between suspicious cat hairs and intimate late-night talks at Catwoman's apartment, Batman pieces together the truth. At the reserve, both heroes are captured by Red Talon, who unveils her scheme: unleash the real virus to kill Batman and Selina, while blackmailing the city with a fake sample. Diabolical. Yes, foolproof Foolproof? Not against a bat or feline claws. In the end, the virus is destroyed, the terrorists taken down, and on Gotham's rooftops, Batman reveals he knows who Selina really is, and yet, he didn't turn her in. They share a moment, and the city even more dangerous. With the city on high alert, Harvey Dent's new project promises maximum security, the Gotham Penitentiary. Naturally, that draws the right kind of attention, and the wrong. After thwarting a daring escape, Batman barely has time to catch his breath. Bruce heads to dinner with the district attorney, who introduces his latest whirlwind romance, Pamela Isley, romantic, impulsive, and poisoned. Harvey collapses, and the diagnosis is grim, a rare toxin, no known antidote. As Gordon investigates, Bruce uncovers a key detail. Pamela holds a PhD in extinct plant species. Bingo. Inside the greenhouse, Batman comes face to face with Poison Ivy, an eco-terrorist with a grudge and a rare flower turned deadly weapon. One poisonous kiss later, Batman faces a brutal choice: the antidote or the destruction of the plant. Batman pushes back. Ivy relents. Harvey is saved. Pamela is arrested, but before she's taken away, she makes one thing clear.
But I'll grow back. We always grow back.
And let's be honest, Gotham thrives on tragic reruns. As Ivy plots her next botanical revenge, a familiar painted face rehearses his grand return to the stage. Gotham already had its share of monsters, but lately even the college pigeons were flying in zigzags. The city, plunged into academic chaos, watches as Gotham University's campus becomes the stage for a string of vandalism, equal parts criminal and avant-garde. Amid the mess, Dean Dr. Long can barely contain his public indigestion at the sight of Bruce Wayne, Gotham's favorite tabloid billionaire, grinning like he isn't the poster boy for vanity. According to the aging Dean, Thomas Wayne must be rolling in his grave. Meanwhile, in the darker corners of the city, a new nightmare takes shape. The Scarecrow. No petty heists for this guy. He wants to watch the world scream. His target? A bank on campus, turned into a stage for a psychedelic chemical trip, where even the guards start waving at imaginary pet spiders. Amid the chaos, Batman arrives, but things go south fast. He's hit with fear toxin and hallucinates his father, calling him a failure. Existential crisis activated. Disoriented, the hero lets Scarecrow slip away. Bullock shows up, barks some tough talk, and wastes no time blaming the Bat. Trust between the cops and the vigilante has never been solid, but now it's cracked like a mirror in a horror flick. And who is this Scarecrow? None other than Jonathan Crane, a former psychology professor with a PhD in emotional torture and a GPA of 0 ethics. He was booted from the university for his twisted experiments with fear, and guess who pulled the lever on his expulsion? Dr. Long himself, the muse of the disturbed. In the Batcave, Bruce struggles to keep it together while haunted by the ghost of his judgmental father. Alfred, emotional anchor extraordinaire, offers his usual rock-solid support, but Crane doesn't waste time. He kidnaps Dr. Long, because shared trauma tastes better. The setting? A blimp. Because if you're going to drive Gotham insane, do it with flair. From the skies, Scarecrow releases more toxin, but this time, when Nightmare Thomas Wayne tries to break his son down, Bruce fights back.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
And no toxin stands a chance against that comeback. Crane tries to flee, but Batman, now in no-nonsense mode, cuts him off. The blimp nearly turns into fireworks, but Bruce manages to save both the Dean and the deranged villain. Crane gets carted off to lockup, with a bonus dose of his own toxin. Result? Pure panic. Bullock, meanwhile, hands over his badge. He lost the bet. Justice is served. But Gotham never sleeps. While Batman is still shaking off the last emotional aftershocks, across town, Mayor Hill decides his new PR strategy will be down with costumed crazies. Naturally, that includes Batman, and naturally, that infuriates the clown prince of crime himself, the Joker. Personally offended at being lumped together with the Bat, Joker hatches a plan to crash the mayor's birthday bash. After all, if you're going to make a point, do it at an event packed with cameras. Caught in the crossfire of political posturing is Jordan, the mayor's son, who watches his father turn the party into a campaign speech. The cherry on top? A mysterious clown named Jekyll shows up out of nowhere to entertain the kids. That clown, of course, is Joker in disguise. As the mayor rambles on, Jordan slips away unnoticed and finds himself charmed by the offbeat magician. Then, in the middle of the chaos, boom, the cake explodes, literally, and Jordan vanishes in the smoke, whisked away to, where else? An abandoned amusement park. Jordan volunteers to be Joker's new magic assistant. Joker, finding the whole thing hilarious, decides to keep the boy around, but Batman doesn't waste a second. He tracks them straight to the villain's lair. Trapped in a Houdini Lamborghini-style water tank, Batman faces a challenge that's more than just sleight of hand. It's Jordan who steps up, defying his chaotic mentor to free the hero. What follows is a high-speed roller coaster chase, complete with Jordan nearly falling from the tracks. Batman saves the boy and returns him to his father, who at last puts politics aside to embrace his son. But the war against the circus of crime is far from over. If Gotham already has circuses, parties, and panic, now it can add real estate speculation to the mix. Roland Daggett, the classic corporate shark, wants to demolish Crime Alley, the place where the Wayne tragedy took root. But since the city didn't approve the project, he opts for the traditional route, hiring a deranged demolitions expert named Nitro. The plan is to bring down a low-income hotel at 9 p.m., but a voice from the past stands in the way of turning lives into rubble. Leslie Tompkins, the doctor and longtime Wayne family friend, is kidnapped for interfering with the scheme. Naturally, Bruce drops everything to investigate. After squeezing intel from panicked thugs, Batman rescues Leslie and sends her to evacuate the hotel. Meanwhile, Daggett is at a high society event selling his progress as innovation, when in fact it's terrorism. The hotel explodes, but only the empty buildings turn to dust. Leslie saves the residents. Daggett, on the other hand, dodges justice by throwing his henchmen under the bus and keeping his public image clean. Despondent, Batman returns to Crime Alley. Standing beside Leslie in silence, he reflects on what's left of Gotham, and despite it all, she reminds him, there are still good people out there. Gotham isn't just plagued by supervillains. Sometimes, the chaos comes from within the badge.
There's nothing you can do now.
A police sting to capture a major drug lord goes sideways. Bullock is found unconscious, the money vanishes, and suddenly everyone's pointing fingers. Every cop has their own version of the story. Bullock blames Batman. Montoya and Rookie Wilkes swear Bullock went in alone, playing the lone wolf, and all of them claim they saw Batman, only with weird powers, mentioning someone named Doc or Hathcock. While the department spirals into internal crisis, and the officers involved are suspended, the real Batman is tied up in the gang's hideout. He learns that Hathcock is the drug kingpin and breaks free just in time to start the hunt. Montoya, suspended or not, goes after them too. Together, she and the Bat dismantle the entire operation. The money is recovered, the lies unravel, and in a true Gotham miracle, Bullock actually thanks Montoya. While the police tend to their wounds, a new kind of villain emerges. Temple Fugate, the man who lives by the tick of the clock. His life was timed down to the second, until the day Mayor Hill suggested he take it easy. Fugate took the advice and lost everything. Years later, he resurfaces as the Clock King. With the tick-tock of revenge in his heart, he sabotages the city's traffic systems and sets a meticulously timed vendetta against the mayor. Following the clues, Batman narrowly escapes becoming a statistic himself when he's trapped in a vacuum chamber. Once free, he uncovers the final act. Hill is bound to the hands of a giant clock, set to be crushed at precisely 3:15, the exact hour of Fugate's downfall. The Dark Knight arrives just in time, turning the villain's obsession against him and trapping him in his own mechanism. But when the gears stop turning, there's no body to be found. For Batman, it's not a question of if the Clock King will return, but when.
You think we'll hear from him again?
I wouldn't be surprised, Commissioner. In fact, I'd say it's only a matter of time.
Gotham turns into a full-blown circus of horrors as a cloud of collective insanity begins sweeping through the city. Citizens cackle like deranged hyenas, stumbling through the streets with their brains frying faster than fries in hot oil. It doesn't take long for Batman to sniff out the culprit. Cheap makeup and bad jokes in the air. Of course, the Joker's behind it. As the Dark Knight gears up for a counterattack, the Laughing Gas decides to go sightseeing and pays a visit to Wayne Manor. The result? Alfred, giggling uncontrollably, stumbling through the halls like he just walked out of a terrible stand-up show. And guess who's left to clean up the mess solo? The trail of chaos leads Batman straight to a landfill, temporary home to the Joker, who's turned the dump into a 5-star resort for kidnapped corporate execs. The plan? Crash the stock market with all the subtlety of a bomb in the Wall Street vault. But what's a Joker scheme without the Clown Captain? A hulking brute built to punch first and clown around later. While the big guy trades blows with Batman, the Joker does what he does best, tries to kill the hero in theatrical fashion, this time by tossing him into a garbage compactor. Batman escapes, turns the environment against the clowns, and, as always, comes out on top. The Joker ends up right where he belongs, in a fiery predicament, seconds away from being toasted in the incinerator, but spared, of course, for another season of madness. And there's barely time to pick up the pieces, because as one clown exits stage left, a more natural, and far less funny, threat begins to take root in Gotham. A high-powered executive vanishes without a trace, kidnapped by an eco-vigilante vigilante who clearly binged a little too much Discovery Channel. Meanwhile, in a rare moment of corporate responsibility, Bruce Wayne decides not to profit from bulldozing a rainforest. Good for him. Seemingly in vacation mode, Bruce receives an invitation to a luxurious spa that promises eternal youth. Because of course, that's totally legit. Too busy dealing with the green apocalypse, he sends Alfred and Maggie to enjoy the perk in his place. There, the mysterious Dr. Demeter introduces a miracle elixir made from chlorophyll, and surprise, they come back different. Like, let's redecorate the Batcave with ferns. Different. They even try to force Bruce to drink the magical green juice that screams lab-grown detox, with his suspicions and the walls sprouting leaves. Batman digs deeper and uncovers that several other wealthy industrialists have also disappeared, each one gifted with the same spa invitation. This week's obvious twist, Dr. Demeter is none other than Poison Ivy in disguise. The spa, a lush trap where the rich are turned into ornamental shrubbery. On their next visit, Alfred and Maggie, overcome by botanical urges, flee back to the spa like plant zombies. Batman follows, herbicide-treated suit and all, because he comes prepared. Cue the classic punch fest, heroes and villains tumbling through vines, and Batman blowing up the mutant enzyme stockpile. Alfred and Maggie are saved, but they come back with a serious case of botanical PTSD. Anything green now sends shivers down their spines.
Bruce, please. The plant. Must you?
And Gotham. Gotham barely catches its breath between a neurotoxin scare and a sinister photosynthesis outbreak before diving headfirst into an emotional storm, straight from the broken heart of a certain district attorney. Harvey Dent is a wreck. Nightmares, outbursts, a shadowy alter ego whispering in his ear. Just another day teetering on the edge of madness. In the real world, he's spearheading an operation against Rupert Thorne, Gotham's most stereotypical mob boss, with Batman, as always, doing the heavy lifting. After a theatrical win, Harvey steps into the spotlight, but the second a goon mouths off, he snaps Hulk-level rage. Gordon has to step in before the DA crushes someone. Thorne, of course, sees gold, a powerful politician with a ticking time bomb in his head. He starts digging into Harvey's past like a tabloid journalist on a sugar rush. At a high society event, Grace, Harvey's ever-patient fiancée, and Bruce both realize he's unraveling, and when the case against the mobsters gets tossed out on a technicality, the lid finally blows. Harvey even lashes out at Bruce. The cherry on top, turns out he's been in therapy for months and no one knew. Now Big Bad Harv is taking the wheel. The climax, Thorne gets his hands on Harvey's psych files and, being the sadistic villain he is, uses them to blackmail him. Harvey heads to a chemical plant to settle the score. Spoiler alert, it doesn't end well. A blast hits him head on, and when Batman pulls him from the wreckage, Harvey Dent is gone, replaced by a scarred reflection, inside and out. Goodbye, Harvey Dent. Hello, Two-Face. Half man, half trauma. Harvey Dent makes his grand return to Gotham as the theatrical and dangerously unpredictable Two-Face. His debut, crashing Rupert Thorne's operations and leaving their fate to a coin toss. Thorne naturally loses it. He puts a hefty price on Two-Face's head. Meanwhile, Batman, still carrying the weight of guilt like a backpack full of bricks, tries to predict his former friend's next move. The police decide to use Grace as emotional bait. She agrees, holding on to the hope that there's still something left of Harvey to save. Two-Face, on the other hand, keeps wrestling with memories he refuses to acknowledge. But Grace's face lingers in the back of his mind like a splinter in his subconscious. Batman studies the pattern behind the crimes and realizes the next hit will be the final blow against Thorne. He intercepts Two-Face at an old law office, once a place where Harvey dreamed of justice. Now it's all about revenge. After a not-so-civil brawl, Thorne's goons escape with critical files. Then comes the inevitable. Two-Face calls Grace. She answers, activates a tracker, and Thorne shows up too. Trap after trap is sprung. In the end, Two-Face prepares to let the coin decide Thorne's fate until Batman intervenes and the coin is lost. Without it, Two-Face freezes. The police move in and take him away. All that's left is Batman's weary voice, holding on to a single hope that maybe one day Harvey will come back.
Where there's love, there's hope, Commissioner.
As Gotham struggles to catch its breath between a wave of madness and a clash of personalities, a new epidemic begins to spread. Fear, literally. Elite athletes are collapsing mid-game as if they'd seen the devil himself in the stands. Robin isn't spared. Paralyzed by an invisible terror, he fails to back up Batman during a mission. Back in the Batcave, the world's greatest detective connects the dots. Cryptic telegrams, cold sweats, and adrenaline giving way to panic. All signs point to a name that reeks of stale hay: Scarecrow. Arkham confirms confirms the hunch. The real Jonathan Crane has escaped, leaving a decoy behind. Meanwhile, a shady figure known as Lucky is betting on the downfall of star athletes. And guess what? It's Scarecrow, using his fear toxin to rig outcomes and bankroll his new philosophy of panic. Shaken but determined, Robin insists on joining the next mission. Batman agrees, because the only way to overcome fear is to face it head on. During a packed stadium game, Scarecrow attempts to unleash his toxin on the crowd, but Robin, in a championship-worthy moment, intercepts the vial and saves thousands, and in doing so, he saves himself. As Brian Rogers signs his pro contract, the heroes continue to battle their own demons, some deep within, others still prowling the streets of Gotham. Sherman, a young junior detective with more curiosity than common sense, and his adventure partner Roberta spot an unlikely sight, a vulture soaring across Gotham's gloomy skies. In any other city, that'd just be weird. In Gotham, that's basically an open invitation to follow. And of course, the two trail the bird to a building as abandoned as a politician's campaign promises after Election Day. Inside, they spy a scene straight out of a B-movie. The Penguin, dressed to impress, or at least trying, is being handed the Von Ulster Fabergé egg by his goons. That's a luxury trinket so rare no museum has enough insurance to cover it. But just as the villain celebrates, in swoops the Dark Knight himself, Batman, ready to crash the party, until he's caught off guard by one of Penguin's gas trap gadgets. Seriously, Gotham should outlaw these things. With the hero knocked out and chaos in full swing, Sherman and Roberta jump into action. They grab the egg, drag Batman to the Batmobile, with strength only the script can explain, and hide him in Sherman's basement. Before fully blacking out, the hero mutters one cryptic word, visor, not suspicious at all. While Penguin and his gang tear the kid's house apart like it's a piñata at a birthday party, Sherman and Roberta realize the visor is actually the Batmobile's sun shield, where, bingo, a vial of antidote is hidden. The duo fights off the henchman and tries to revive Batman amidst the wreckage. Just as Penguin closes in for the final blow, Batman wakes up. Recharged and furious, he restores order in no time, taking down Penguin without even breaking a sweat under the cape. Sherman's mom gets home just in time to see the house looking like a war zone, and Batman lying in the basement. But for Sherman, it was just another typical Tuesday in Gotham. Mystery solved. Now on to the next one.
Roberta and I will be over at Mrs. Feynman's. Her dog is missing. You're the boss.
Gotham proves once again why it'll never win Most Peaceful City anytime soon. A police ship explodes right in the middle of the sea, not exactly a rare occurrence around here. Inside was Spider Conway, an informant ready to snitch on Rupert Thorne, a local crime boss with all the charm of a Boyle. Bullock, the city's toughest, crankiest detective, is pulled off the case due to a conflict of interest. But Batman, of course, steps in to investigate. At first, he suspects Bullock himself, but what he finds at the scene is a scaly residue. Not exactly Bullock's style, unless he's suddenly turned into a lizard. Things get worse when another informant is attacked by someone who looks just like Bullock, and then it all clicks. Or as much as anything ever does in Gotham, Killer Croc, the vengeful reptilian bruiser Bullock helped put behind bars years ago, has escaped and is out to ruin the detective's name. Batman tracks him to a sewer that's grosser than a truck stop restroom, but Croc, subtle as ever, sets a trap. The Bat takes a beating, naturally, but gives more than he gets. Knowing Croc won't crawl back to the sewers now that he's been found out, Batman sets a trap using Bullock as bait, and guess what? It works. Croc shows up, spills the beans without even needing a truth serum, and gets the pounding he's got coming. Bullock's cleared of all charges, but in true gruff detective fashion, barely says thanks. He goes right back to work like nothing happened, and Gotham, still the same. A city where even the sewage has a grudge.
I just want all the scum buckets and dirtbags in this town to know they better lay low.
Bruce Wayne is having dinner with Ethan Clarke, a businessman who puts more faith in psychics than spreadsheets. The topic of the evening, Nostromos, a so-called prophet who's allegedly predicted disasters, but looks more like the type who sells miracle tonics to gullible grandmas. Ethan's daughter, Lisa, isn't buying it either. She tells Bruce her father's now involved with some secret brotherhood. Bruce, who suspects even his butler just for fun, decides to investigate. He finds out Nostromos is actually Carl Fowler, a washed-up actor running a scam with help from Lucas, a special effects whiz with way too much free time. The duo plots to kill Bruce by sabotaging his private elevator, but Bruce survives, which only boosts the believer's faith. After all, if the prophet predicted even that miracle, now undercover in the cult, Bruce uncovers their real plan. The Brotherhood wants to convert a multi-million-dollar trust fund into gold, because apparently, gold bars are the answer to the apocalypse. All they need is Ethan's signature. As expected, things spiral when Nostromos reveals reveals he's kidnapped Lisa to force Ethan's hand, but Batman shows up just in time, rescues Lisa, and exposes the fraud. Ashamed, Ethan realizes he was duped by a third-rate con man. Bruce, cool as ever, walks off like he only stopped by for a coffee, already thinking about the next scam to unravel.
I can't believe I was so gullible. But that's what I get for putting my faith in greed.
Bruce Wayne listens intently at a homeless shelter where rumors of mysterious disappearances among the unhoused are spreading like wildfire. One man, Dan Riley, vanished without a trace. The trail leads to a trap, a shady van offering work that whisks the unsuspecting straight into a nightmare, a forced labor mine. Today's newest recruit, none other than Bruce Wayne himself, completely amnesiac. Mind blank, muscles intact, he's thrown into the nightmare of an underground mining camp ruled by screams and brute force. Meanwhile, Alfred, the most resourceful butler since Alfred Nobel, notices Bruce is missing. He tracks the Batmobile to the shelter. Suspicion confirmed. Tracker activated. Back in the mine, Bruce starts showing flashes of a fighter's instinct. He takes down guards, sparks an uprising, and becomes the camp's unlikely hero. With Dan Riley at his side, they escape toward a cliffside, chased by thugs like it's the Olympic finals. During the escape, Alfred finds him, and in that moment, everything clicks. He is Batman, and like any true bat, he strikes from the shadows, frees the prisoners, and shuts down the underground slavery ring. Back to normal life, whatever that means for him. Bruce offers Dan a real job. Unaware that he's actually talking to Batman, Dan jokes that he wants to be rich too. He's closer than he thinks. Jervis Tetch, a Wayne Enterprises scientist with the name of a French waiter and the self-esteem of a baked potato, invents a mind control chip and, of course, uses it to try to win over a woman. The target? Alice, a co-worker who's never given him the time of day. When Alice breaks up with her boyfriend, Jervis sees an opening the size of his own delusion. He sets up a date and on the way, uses his tech to force two muggers to jump into a river. Because nothing says first date like mental manipulation and attempted murder. That man quickly senses something's off. Besides Tetch's questionable cologne, he pieces things together and uncovers the scientist's darker side. But before he can step in, Jervis completely snaps. When Alice announces she's getting back together with her ex, Jervis embraces a new persona, the Mad Hatter. He kidnaps Alice and puts both her fiancé and her boss under mind control to try and kill Batman. In the final showdown, the Hatter threatens to erase Alice's free will, but Batman doesn't throw a punch. He throws the harshest weapon of all, the truth. He tells Tetch that turning Alice into a puppet isn't love, it's obsession. Tetch breaks down, Alice is freed, and Batman wins again. But the hole in Gotham's collective sanity, still there, alive well, and getting deeper by the day.
Oh, Billy!
Would not. Could not.
Gotham barely had time to catch its breath after the Mad Hatter's rampage before it's plunged into another twisted game of manipulation. This time it's not about magic hats or dreamlike illusions, but a master of mental torture, Wormwood, the Interrogator. His latest trick? A trap involving a foreign diplomat and a suitcase full of bearer bonds meant for refugees. Humanitarian? Not even close. Commissioner Gordon, a veteran of these mind games, calls in Batman, who begins piecing together the tangled web left behind by Wormwood. The trail leads him to the Baron, a flamboyant con man with more affectations than a Broadway diva and a tongue looser than a paper cuff. That's when the Dark Knight proves that psychological interrogation is also part of his arsenal. The Baron ends up more humiliated than a Scooby-Doo villain and vows to get even, and he does, by hiring Wormwood himself to do the unthinkable, capture the symbol, the essence, the very armor of Batman. Literally, they want the cowl and cape as trophies. Because humiliation isn't enough, they want to flaunt it. Wormwood stages a spectacle worthy of a twisted theme park. First, a railway museum filled with cryptic clues. Then a wax museum that feels more like a maze of nightmares. In the midst of it all, Batman is cornered, gassed, and forced to surrender his iconic look. But Gotham lives by a rule. Never trust Batman's first defeat. The suit lands in the Baron's hands, who, smug as ever, decides to spill everything. Too bad the Baron was Batman all along, in disguise, recording every word. A plot twist worthy of a Tim Burton-directed reality show. Wormwood ends up behind bars. The bonds are recovered, and as the bitter cherry on top, he receives a little gift from the Baron, a blanket, to keep him warm during those long prison nights. Batman never misses a chance for a touch of classy mockery. Bruce Wayne wakes up in his mansion, seemingly unharmed, but in the wrong universe. Alfred appears to have had a full brain reboot. He doesn't know what the Batcave is, let alone Batman, and as if the existential meltdown weren't enough, Bruce's parents walk into the room, alive and well. Needless to say, he starts questioning his sanity, pretending it's just a post-party hangover, the favorite excuse of troubled billionaires. He tries to navigate this new reality where he's just a wealthy socialite engaged to Selina Kyle. Yes, that's Selina, but in this world, she has no claws, no secrets, just love, apparently. As Bruce tries to process this waking dream, a new Batman starts making headlines, fighting crime in Gotham. Confused and suspecting he's caught in some kind of mental trap, he visits Dr. Leslie Tompkins. Her diagnosis: psychological escape, dissociation, escapism, maybe. But Bruce notices one strange thing. He can't read the letters in a newspaper, which can only mean one thing. He must be dreaming. And what do you do in a dream to wake up? You fall. Bruce climbs to the top of a clock tower, a familiar, symbolic, safe place. There he finds the other Batman. The confrontation becomes a revelation. Everything was orchestrated by the Mad Hatter, who hooked Bruce up to a dream machine to keep him docile and happy. The problem is, no one traps Batman's mind without consequences. He jumps from the tower and wakes up, literally, in the Mad Hatter's lair, just in time to see the villain's eyes widen in shock before being swiftly neutralized. The dream machine ends up in police custody. Batman, weary and a touch sarcastic, simply remarks,
Yes, the stuff that dreams are made of.
Freud and Jung would have a field day with the symbolism. Back on Gotham's filthy, solid ground, Batman dives into the sewers chasing rumors of a thieving goblin, but what he finds down there is far worse than any urban legend. An underground empire of missing children, ruled by a self-proclaimed king. This so-called king, a sinister figure with the flair of a post-apocalyptic prophet, kidnaps and enslaves children to steal treasures for him, keeping them in constant fear. It's the darkest version of Peter Pan you'll ever see. Batman rescues one of the kids and brings him back to the mansion, where Alfred, with his trademark patience and wisdom, tries to connect with the boy, who remains completely silent, whether out of trauma or fear. It's only when the boy accidentally finds an unloaded gun that he breaks his silence, revealing a crucial clue. Armed with this new lead, Batman returns to the sewers. This time, the villain unleashes his pet alligators like watchdogs at a party, but they're no match for Batman. The king tries to escape through the tunnels, but Batman catches up to him and takes him down. On the surface, sunlight shines down on the children, and with hope rekindled in the eyes of the freed children, the damp, shadowy corridors of Gotham begin to reveal new dangers ahead. The calm never lasts. Wayne Enterprises is hit by a string of sophisticated heists, so slick it's like the thieves used ninjas as couriers. At every scene, the same calling card, a shuriken lodged like a business card. Bruce recognizes it instantly. Japanese craftsmanship, straight from a past he'd rather forget. No time for therapy. He heads back to the cave and dives into intense, nearly obsessive training. His body responds, but it's his mind that's at war. The man behind it all is Kyodai Ken, a real ninja, once his peer in the very same dojo where Bruce forged his skills. On patrol, Batman comes face to face with Kyodai, but the ninja, always slippery, vanishes in a smoke cloud. What he didn't count on was Robin jumping in, almost blowing his escape. With his identity exposed, Bruce admits Kyodai was the only one who could beat him in the dojo, and the only one ever expelled for dishonor. To cut this emotional rematch short, Bruce sets a trap at the museum. There, the past is laid bare. Kyodai once tried to steal a sacred sword, got caught, and was cast out. Now he's after more than revenge. He wants Wayne's fortune to bankroll his twisted redemption. In the final showdown, Kyodai captures Bruce and reporter Summer Gleason, demanding Wayne Enterprises' wealth, but Robin charges in, modern cavalry style, and what follows is a martial arts ballet. Kyodai has the upper hand, cocky, taunting, but Bruce, focused, turns the tide. Honor returns to his side. Kyodai escapes, of course, but this time, it's different.
I defeated him once. If necessary, I can do it again.
Peace in Gotham has a shorter shelf life than a TV remote battery. This time, the attack hits the mind, literally. Judge Maria Vargas survives an assassination attempt during a blackmail scheme, and the trail leads Bruce to a spa with the name of a cleaning product and promises of total relaxation. Who's behind it? Dr. Hugo Strange. And let's just say, the name doesn't lie. Bruce goes undercover as a client and, in his very first session, gets hooked up to a machine that claims to relieve stress by reading thoughts. Relax. breathe, and relive your worst traumas. The device extracts the exact moment when Bruce lost his parents and swore revenge. With that golden nugget in hand, the Doctor sets up a secret auction for Gotham's elite chaos enthusiasts: the Joker, the Penguin, and Two-Face. Highest bidder gets the secret. Meanwhile, Bruce strikes back. He breaks into the lab and discovers the machine records thoughts onto tapes. But before he can erase them, Alfred is kidnapped and used as bait. The result? Bruce is captured, but not before putting a plan into motion. At the auction, the tape is sold. The villains are giddy with anticipation to watch Batman unmasked. But when the footage plays, nothing. Just static. Laughter turns to outrage. And in the chaos, Batman shows up and saves Hugo Strange. Plot twist. Because the Batman on that tape, not the real one. It was Dick Grayson, wearing lifts in the suit to match Bruce's height. The Doctor is arrested, the villain's trust goes up in smoke, and Bruce returns home with a faint smile.
I've had enough vacation to last me a long time.
In Gotham, just when you think you've seen it all, a retired geneticist decides to play God on a remote island. Selina Kyle, our favorite feline femme fatale, is kidnapped by a creature straight out of a failed experiments edition of National Geographic. Naturally, Batman's on the case, because nothing says tropical getaway like genetic mutations and high-stakes chases. On the island, the local host is Dr. Dorian, a genius in genetics who believes the next step in evolution is becoming a giant cat. Like any good mad scientist, he's already injected Selina with a serum, and now she's in full cat mode, both literally and mentally foggy. To spice things up, Dorian unleashes his pet project, Tigress, a tiger man with more inner turmoil than a soap opera lead. Batman embarks on a savage manhunt, while Selina escapes the mutation spa and runs into the dark night deep in the jungle, just in time to avoid becoming Tiger Chow. But she's got charm, and Tigress has doubts. The big feline hesitates, until Daddy Dorian shows up, furious that his feline offspring is starting to think for himself. Cue the explosions, both emotional and literal, as the lab goes up in flames. Torn between rage and loyalty, Tigress drags Dorian into the inferno. The heroes make it out, but the antidote doesn't. With no turning back, Selina decides that if she's half cat now, she might as well stay on the island with Tigress. A Beauty and the Beast ending, just furrier, and with a dash of radioactive dust. As the final lines of a poem echo through the jungle, Gotham waits patiently for its watchful protector, who's about to face an even more claustrophobic nightmare.
What immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry?
Imagine waking up in Arkham Asylum and realizing no one believes you're Batman. Worse yet, they think you're insane. But when the villain is Scarecrow and the game is psychological, anything's possible. It all started at a spa, because even superheroes need a detox, where Batman foiled a thug's plan to spike the water with Fear Fizz. But during the scuffle, he inhaled a bit too much of that terror perfume. Diagnosis: 24 hours before his sanity melts away. The antidote requires rest, a luxury Gotham never grants. Hallucinations, paranoia, terrifying visions, and the Bat ends up exactly where the villain's hiding. Arkham, locked up, confined, treated like a madman, he tries to convince Dr. Bartholomew that Scarecrow is behind it all. And guess what? He's right. Scarecrow wants to turn the entire city into a collective nightmare, and from the asylum's underground, he's launching the final stage of his plan, even staggering between reality and delusion. Batman breaks through both mental and physical bars to face the villain. With clumsy moves, shaky punches, and a mind that keeps turning Alfred into a killer clown, he sabotages the fear machine. Boom! Threat neutralized. And back in the Batcave, the Dark Knight breathes a little easier, at least until the next mass hysteria, or the next villain with a PhD in poison.
When crime haunts the night, a silent crusader carries the torch of justice.
Gotham gets a new villain, a nostalgic maniac with serious boundary issues. The Mad Bomber is planting explosives around town like he's handing out discount coupons. But here's the bizarre twist. The pattern of attacks matches scenes from an old TV show called The Grey Ghost. And guess who used to be a die-hard fan as a kid? Yep, Batman himself. With no official leads, the only way to crack the case is to track down Simon Trent, the actor who once played the TV hero. But Trent's no star anymore. He's bitter, broke, and pawning off old costumes to pay the rent. One awkward encounter later, Trent still refuses to revisit the past, until he sees the deadly toy bombs in action and realizes that life is imitating art. Cue a sweet fanboy moment as Batman brings Trent to the Batcave, complete with posters and action figures. That's right, the Dark Knight was a childhood nerd. Trent finally agrees to help, but things take a turn when his fingerprints show up on one of the bombs. A false lead, of course. The real culprit is a crazed collector who bought the original props and found a brilliant way to fund his obsession with explosive blackmail. The final showdown is a literal blast of nostalgia and action, as Batman and the Grey Ghost take on toy cars rigged as bombs, like a twisted toy convention gone rogue. With the villain taken down, Simon Trent gets a second shot at stardom, and in a heartfelt movie magic moment, Bruce Wayne asks for an autograph and quietly says, "You're still my hero," full circle. But Gotham never sleeps, and someone's back in action, with claws.
You know, as a kid, I used to watch it with my father. The Grey Ghost was my hero. And he still is.
Selina Kyle is free, but with conditions: 5 years of probation and 0 Catwoman antics. Gotham wants to believe in her redemption, but Bruce Wayne isn't buying the instant reform act, especially when he suspects Selina's heart beats more for the Bat than for the billionaire. Meanwhile, her cat Isis mysteriously vanishes. Selina roams the frozen city like it's some twisted holiday special, and along the way, she runs into 2 thugs rounding up stray cats. She takes them down, obviously, but when the cops show up, the goons play innocent. The result? Selina gets arrested, and her chances of ending up behind bars for good skyrocket. Bruce bails her out, because what else are billionaires for? And soon discovers the thugs work for Roland Daggett, the undisputed king of shady enterprises. With the help of Professor Milo, Daggett is testing a deadly toxin on stray animals. The plan? Infect the city, then sell the cure. Genius and evil. Classic soulless businessman move. Selina ignores the judge's warning and suits up. At the lab, she finds a mutated Isis and gets scratched. The toxin kicks in, and she collapses in an alley, burning with fever. Batman finds her and rushes to the lab, where he uncovers Daggett's twisted master plan. After a showdown involving a mutant dog and a frozen water tank, the Bat wins, naturally, but the antidote runs out. Selina, finally cured, is reunited with her original cat. As for her relationship with Bruce, it's still as messy as Gotham during rush hour.
Are you sure you'll be okay? Go home, Maven. And thanks.
When even Batman considers hanging up the cape, you know things have truly soured in Gotham. Bruce is worn out, physically, mentally, emotionally, and confides in Alfred that maybe it's all just not worth it anymore. To make matters worse, the anniversary of his parents' death pulls him back to Crime Alley. But Gotham doesn't wait. The police set a trap to catch Jimmy, the Jazzman, a smuggler with a name better suited for a dive bar crooner. They're counting on Batman, but the sting goes sideways, and the one who pays the price is Commissioner Gordon, shot and left clinging to life. Batman snaps, disappears from the city, 3 days of mourning in the Batcave, and then he says it. Batman is finished. Dick tries to reason with him, but Bruce is convinced he only hurts the ones he loves. Meanwhile, the Jazzman escapes and sets out to finish the job at the hospital. Robin acts alone, but it's Batman who emerges from the shadows to stop the villain, proof that the doubt has passed. At the end of the night, a man saved by Batman thanks him, says he changed because of him. Bruce smiles, just barely, and maybe, just maybe, hope still lives in Gotham.
Probably saved my life. I bet you hear this all the time. Look, I'm gonna miss my bus. I'll see you around. And thanks.
In Gotham's underworld, the scene is pure noir, smoke, shadows, and a poker night where the chips are stories of near victories over Batman. The city's most notorious villains gather like old friends at a happy hour from hell. Poison Ivy tries to impress with her toxic Halloween tale, forgetting Batman's practically a sommelier of antidotes. Two-Face tries to play it smart with oversized coins, but loses his in the middle of the con. Classic. Killer Croc? Straight to the point. I threw a rock, and the game goes on. The Penguin, always flaunting, tells his gourmet version of defeat, poisoned birds and all, but Batsy's magic utility belt ruins the feast. And then, of course, the Joker shows up. He always shows up. He doesn't just tell a story, he performs. Straps Batman to an electric chair that only activates with laughter. Pure psychopathy. Catwoman saves the day, because in that flirtation of whips and punches, she always knows when to make an entrance. But Joker doesn't quit. He escapes and sets a new trap for Catwoman in a pet food factory. And then, the big twist. One of the poker players was Batman in disguise. Point for the Bat. He races to save Catwoman, facing the eternal dilemma: catch the clown or save the cat. Naturally, he saves her. Joker escapes, laughing all the way. On the rooftop, between smirks and double entendres, Catwoman hints that maybe, just maybe, there's a world where they can be themselves. No capes, no masks.
Almost got him.
Amid the fog, Batman faces off against a masked werewolf attacker, but this time, the bite is real. A zookeeper becomes a grim statistic, and the Dark Knight realizes maybe the monster isn't just a myth. The investigation leads him to Anthony Romulus, a former Olympic athlete who did what every fallen champion eventually does: sold his soul to the wrong scientist, Dr. Milo. The serum that gave him strength turned into a curse, and now Romulus transforms into a wolf under the full moon. Naturally, Dr. Milo has a blackmail scheme in motion: kill Batman, and maybe there's a cure in it for you. To lure the Bat, Romulus offers $1 million donation, with one condition: Batman must collect it in person. Batman arrives, breathes in knockout gas, and passes out. When he wakes, a rabid werewolf is charging straight at him. Bullock's sudden arrival offers a life-saving distraction, and the hero leads the beast on a high-flying rooftop chase across Gotham. In the end, the creature plunges into a river and vanishes. Romulus becomes an urban legend, and his mansion hits the haunted real estate market. When the clouds sink and panic rises, Gotham starts whispering about a winged creature. And as always, all eyes turn to the usual suspect, Dr. Kirk Langstrom. But Langstrom swears he's left the Bat behind, and his wife, Francine, can't bear the thought of living that nightmare again.
Why, Kirk? Why would you do this to me? You promised!
Batman analyzes Langstrom's DNA, and, surprise, he's clean. This flying menace is someone else. The trail of the Bat leads straight to his father-in-law, Dr. March, who turns out to be a true agent of chaos. He's recreated and supercharged the Man-Bat formula. Because of course, what could possibly go wrong? As if that weren't enough, he spills the substance in the lab, and who ends up cleaning it? Francine, completely unaware. Mid-flight on a commercial airplane, Francine begins to transform. Screams turn to roars, passengers panic, and a desperate Kirk boards the flight to save his wife. High above the clouds, with the plane turning into a horror movie, Kirk's embrace brings the creature back under control. The nightmare subsides, but the shadow of the Man-Bat still looms, closer to home than ever.
The nightmare's finally over.
While the Langstroms try to piece their sanity back together, Gotham slips into holiday mode. Well, Robin tries to, because Batman is in full paranoid Grinch mode, and who can blame him? The Joker, with his impeccable sense of timing when it comes to ruining holidays, hijacks the city's broadcasts with his very own Christmas special. He's kidnapped Commissioner Gordon, Bullock, and Summer Gleason, and warns that the clock is ticking. Come midnight, they'll be the Christmas turkeys. First challenge, a bomb on President's Bridge, with a passenger train speeding toward it like it's New Year's Eve. Batman and Robin show up and pull off a stunt worthy of a Soviet circus. They decouple the cars just seconds before the blast. And of course, the Joker already has the next gift lined up. Next stop on the madness map, Mount Gotham Observatory. And guess what? There's an automated cannon randomly firing at the city. Robin turns lab rat, sneaks inside, and shuts it down from within, while Batman plays missile bait outside. It's that, or let Gotham go up in smoke for the holidays. The final clue comes from an old doll commercial, leading them to the long-abandoned LAFCO toy factory. Inside, giant killer toys burst straight out of the nightmares of any kid traumatized by Willy Wonka's factory. A full-blown brawl breaks out until Batman finally confronts the Joker on his twisted Christmas throne. The villain tries to wrap things up with a gift-wrapped bomb, but ends up getting the usual moral smackdown from the Bat, with the hostages safe and Joker handcuffed just in time for Christmas dinner at Arkham. Bruce and Dick finally collapse onto the Wayne Manor couch. It's a Wonderful Life begins on the TV, and for the first time in a long while, Gotham exhales.
Don we now are gay apparel. Fa la 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 la.
Just when Batman gets one peaceful night's rest, the universe decides to remind him that's not allowed. A robot breaks into Wayne Enterprises labs and steals advanced tech chips before the hero can even show up. Lucius Fox quickly explains, those chips are wetware, a blend of hardware and human brain. In short, artificial intelligence with delusions of grandeur. The only other brilliant mind working on a project like this is Carl Rossum, Bruce's former mentor and owner of a facility called Cybertron. There, Bruce meets Randa Dwayne, Rossum's assistant, and Hardak, the supercomputer that runs the place. And looks like it's already planned a full-scale machine uprising. Bruce turns on the charm and invites Randa to dinner, hoping to dig up some intel. But Randa's already in the game. She works for Hardak, and her mission is to replace Gotham's top figures with perfect duplicates. First on the list, Commissioner Gordon. The new version is cold, emotionless, practically a robot, because, well, he is one. During dinner, Randa learns that the real chip files aren't with Lucius. Bruce hid them in the Bat computer, so she breaks into Wayne Manor, knocks Alfred out cold, and steals the data. When Bruce returns, he finds Alfred unconscious, and the digital trail of the betrayal. Bruce starts connecting the dots. Randa, Ross Rossum, Hardak. It all reeks of an AI conspiracy. Meanwhile, Barbara Gordon senses something is wrong with her father. It's not just his icy demeanor, it's the absence of everything that made him human. Batman investigates and confirms. Gordon has been replaced by an android. Barbara, stubborn like her father, breaks into Cybertron to uncover the truth and finds her real father imprisoned, used as a test subject. Bruce, on his end, walks right into a trap while confronting Rossum, only to come face to face with robotic copies of Mayor Hill and Randa herself. Hardak's plan is every disillusioned AI's twisted fantasy, to replace humanity with more efficient versions, a new world free of human flaws. But like every megalomaniac villain, it underestimates the power of an unlikely alliance. Barbara frees her father, the system collapses, the duplicates are destroyed, and Gotham is saved once again by a bat, a hacker, and a scientist who finally sees the monster he created.
I had no idea Hardak had gone this far.
I'm sure the investigation will prove exactly that.
Gotham barely had time to cool its processors after the last tech crisis when it found itself tangled in a new mystery. Only this time, the threat wasn't a rogue AI, but a man driven by rage, a bruised ego, and a questionable fondness for riddles. Edward Nygma was the mastermind behind The Minotaur's Riddle, a game that raked in millions. For his boss, the sleazy Daniel Mockridge, Nygma, of course, was kicked to the curb without even a thanks for the trauma. And the cherry on top, the line that sealed his villainy. If you're so smart, why aren't you rich? Yeah, even Freud would need sarcasm as a side dish to unpack that one. 2 years later, Mockridge is about to sell his company to Wayne Enterprises when, surprise, he gets a note that nearly makes him soil his designer slacks. Bruce Wayne isn't clueless. He gets the message. Batman steps in, follows the trail, and ends up in a bizarre club where Mockridge is moments away from becoming a snack inside a killer maze. The Riddler, as Nygma now calls himself, doesn't just want revenge, he wants a show. With Mockridge as the main piece on his twisted chessboard, the Riddler vanishes with a theatrical flourish, leading Batman and Robin straight to Mockridge's new theme park, because nothing says corporate regret like a deadly labyrinth based on a stolen video game. Stripped of their signature gadgets, the dynamic duo must solve life or death riddles while dodging the traps of a bitter lunatic. But Batman has more tricks up his sleeve than Joker has bad punchlines. He hijacks the Hand of Fate, a clunky DIY-style contraption, and cuts straight to the heart of the game. There, he faces off against the Minotaur robot, and, with the skill of someone who's beaten aliens, gods, and politicians, rescues Mockridge. As for the Riddler, he was running the whole thing remotely, like a gamer with zero lag, and vanishes without a trace. Mockridge signs his multi-million-dollar deal, but now sleeps with the lights on, and the Riddler, still out there, stuck between the cracks of law and logic. While the inmates at Arkham argue over who's the most traumatized, the Joker sees something on TV that makes his blood boil. Billionaire Cameron Kaiser has opened a luxury resort themed entirely around him. That's right, a full-blown casino called Joker's Wild, plastered with the Clown Prince of Crime's face as the main attraction. What could possibly go wrong? Pretending to fall ill, which isn't exactly a stretch when you're completely unhinged. He escapes from the infirmary, leaving a slippery mess on the floor to slow down the guards, and steals a worker's truck. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne arrives at the casino and quickly realizes that this whole clown-themed debauchery wasn't part of the original blueprint. When the Joker himself shows up disguised as a blackjack dealer and starts sabotaging the table, Bruce's suspicion turns into certainty. The two trade barbs, Bruce in his best Oscar-worthy deadpan, mocking Joker's grotesque flair. After the usual chaos and a narrow escape, Joker disappears, but not without leaving a trail of havoc. Bruce digs deeper and uncovers the real plan. Kaiser is broke and counting on the Joker to burn the place down so he can cash in on the insurance. Basically, he's betting on Joker being Joker. What Kaiser didn't count on was Batman crashing the party. The Dark Knight gets caught by Kaiser's goons and ends up strapped to a giant roulette wheel rigged with explosives. Just another night in Gotham. But of course, Batman escapes and confronts Joker with the truth. He's being played for a fool. That more than anything sets the Clown Prince off the rails. Joker hijacks Kaiser's escape chopper and decides he wants the casino for himself now. In a spectacular aerial showdown filled with revenge, Batman saves Kaiser and keeps the resort from going up in flames. Kaiser is arrested for insurance fraud. Joker gets a one-way trip back to his suite at Arkham, and Gotham, well, Gotham still needs group therapy.
You bunch of no good whacked out losers, you make me sick.
While Gotham was still reeling from the Joker's toxic gas cloud, 3 trespassers decided to poke around an abandoned warehouse. But instead of finding ghosts or some silly mystery, they stumbled upon something far more sinister: a robotic Batman. Same look, same cape, same menacing glare, only made of steel. This knockoff believes he is Bruce Wayne and decides to pay the Batcave a not-so-friendly visit. Upon seeing this high-tech Frankenstein, Alfred does what any proper British butler would: bolts without looking back. The copy, more emotional and confused than the original, digs into the Bat computer and uncovers the truth about the duplicates created by Carl Rossum. Surprise, all of them were supposed to be destroyed. Meanwhile, the real Batman, sensing trouble, tracks down Rossum, now a Zen gardener, who insists that the only robots in his life are lawnmowers. Elsewhere, the distressed robot finds his creator, begs for answers, and gets hit with a metaphysical truth bomb. He's not a human trapped in a machine body, but a machine convinced it's human, a robot with implanted memories and zero chance of ever feeling the breeze on his face. Things take a darker turn when the robot activates an old Hardak chip and becomes the new vessel for the genocidal AI. Back in the Batcave, he attempts to initiate global domination using the Bat computer as his starting point. Batman arrives just in time, and the fight that follows is both physical and existential. But the Dark Knight spots a crack. By absorbing Bruce's morality, the robot also inherited his inability to kill, a paradox in the code, a bug in the Matrix. Faced with a choice between destroying humanity or honoring what he learned from Batman, the robot chooses death. He wipes out Hardak's systems, saving the world and self-destructing in the process. Alfred and Bruce stare at the remains and, for the first time perhaps, wonder if machines can have a soul, or at least enough consciousness to choose the right side. Not every threat in Gotham wears clown makeup or robotic armor. Some just need a bionic eye and a crooked glare to turn everything upside down. Literally, Batman is chasing down an informant named Twitch. The guy barely mentions something called the League of Shadows before his mind is wiped by a sinister gas. Apparently, these agents fear remembering more than dying. This time, the threat goes by Vertigo, a guy with a reality-warping visor and zero sense of balance. He's after a new toy from Wayne Tech, a sonic drill that looks like it came straight out of a futuristic nightmare. During the heist, Vertigo puts on a show, dazing everyone with his hypnotic gadget and vanishing with the drill. Batman nearly ends up as a stumbling extra in his own action scene. The only reason he doesn't lose track of everything is thanks to a mysterious woman in black. Immune to Vertigo's optical trickery, she saves the Dark Knight and introduces herself with a name: Talia, daughter of someone powerful and suspicious. Talia claims she's here to stop Vertigo from weaponizing the drill. Apparently, the guy used to work for her father. Together, she and Batman follow a trail to a monastery, only to walk right into a sensory trap. The place is a hellish maze of optical illusions, and without his special lenses, Batman's in serious trouble. But hey, it's Batman. He closes his eyes, goes full spider sense, and guides Talia through the dark like a ninja monk. Vertigo awaits them on the rooftop, cocky as ever, until his own weapon is turned against him. The drill, flipped on its master, turns his Vertigo into a full-blown nightmare, and when the dust settles, Talia betrays Batman. She threatens him and vanishes with the device, like someone who's just completed a mission for dear old dad. But Bruce Wayne wasn't born yesterday. He'd already sabotaged the toy. Talia's father receives the gift with a smile, the kind of smile that says this game with the Bat is far from over. In Gotham, chaos has taken on the rhythm of digital poetry. Machines are going haywire, ATMs spout riddles, stock exchange billboards become riddle-filled message boards, and naturally, when nonsense questions flood the city, there's only one man behind it: Edward Nygma, the Riddler. But this time, he's not just playing criminal mastermind, he's trying to erase himself from the digital world. As Nygma scrambles to delete his online footprint, he decides to play hide-and-seek with the police, sending out an explosive puzzle bearing his signature, a question mark and a sinister tick-tock. Batman, as always, treats the game like a personal invitation, disarming the bomb with the ease of solving a morning Sudoku. Back in the Batcave, Bruce skips the obvious answers and cuts to the chase. What's with the questions? He converts numbers to Roman numerals, and of course, they spell out DMV, because where better for a dramatic villain entrance than a place where sanity goes to die? Nygma was there, retrieving his physical records, but he escapes in a truck full of nitroglycerin, just to keep the chase interesting. Meanwhile, at GCPD, Commissioner Gordon has the brilliant idea to test a virtual reality program left behind by the Riddler. The result? He falls into a digital coma, and Batman? He dives into the virtual world to rescue the Commissioner, with his partner providing backup over comms. Inside, Batman faces a deadly chessboard, a pixelated Zodiac, and finally, the same puzzle from the beginning, with Gordon trapped inside. Naturally, Riddler cheats, but Batman counters with elegant dirty play, forcing the villain to split his focus, overloading the system and collapsing collapsing the virtual world. Gordon wakes up. Nigma, found catatonic in the ruins of Gotham's World's Fair, imprisoned within his own mind. A riddle even he couldn't solve. Suddenly, every fish in Gotham decided to cosplay as the Joker. The Clown Prince of Crime isn't just poisoning the schools, he's also marching into the patent office demanding royalties, because if you're going to be crazy, might as well have a business plan. While Gordon scrambles to protect a bureaucrat named Francis, the poor guy ends up dead, with that same eerie grin. Batman deduces it was Harley Quinn's doing, the infamous binary toxin, harmless first dose, fatal second hit. But Joker isn't done. His next target is locked in, and the police do the obvious, use the guy as bait. Of course it backfires. The target's pet cat gets infected, bites him, and spreads the toxin. The only clue left behind? An exotic fish. And the trail leads straight to the city aquarium. There, Joker and Harley turn the place into a horror-themed water park. Sharks, Bullock trapped, and Batman facing the apex predator of the moment. After an underwater showdown worthy of a wildlife documentary, Joker ends up in the tank, but no one in Gotham believes it's really over. And if you do, you probably need to watch fewer cartoons. The Joker's back. He is, but he bombed. In a poorly planned museum heist, the Joker blames Harley Quinn for everything. The result? A swift firing, complete with public humiliation. Wounded in both pride and heart, Harley sets out to prove her worth. She attempts a solo robbery but ends up running into none other than Poison Ivy, because that's Gotham. You always bump into someone shady in the worst places. The two escape the cops and hide out in a toxic junkyard. Ivy gives Harley a shot to make her immune to poisons and teaches her a thing or two about self-love and eco-friendly crime. The new duo launches a crusade against boys-only clubs, and Joker, watching it all on TV, is green with envy. After all, who is he without his little plaything? Batman tracks the pair to their hideout but ends up captured, and just when everything's about to go up in flames, literally, the Joker shows up, wanting Harley back. Explosions, bazookas, and in the midst of the chaos, Batman arrests Ivy and Harley. But Harleen's heart still beats for her puddin'. She seriously needs therapy. After a high-octane chase, the Batmobile is totaled and towed straight to Batman's trusted garage, run by Earl Cooper, a mechanical genius with a shady past and an electrifying present. Penguin's goons, frustrated at failing to snag the Batmobile, accidentally spill the beans on where it gets repaired. Penguin, giddy like a kid in a candy store, storms the garage, only to get zapped by its security system. So, he does what villains do best. He kidnaps the mechanic's daughter. Under pressure, Earl is forced to sabotage the Batmobile. But Earl isn't just any turncoat. He warns Batman about the trap using the word basement, street slang in the racing world. Bruce picks up the clue, and noticing Earl tweak the AC system, triggers the ejector seat seconds before the blast. A spectacular explosion with a happy ending. Marva is rescued, Penguin is locked up, and Batman's got a backup plan in the garage. Bruce promises Earl a brand new workshop, safer, smarter, and fully upgraded. And yes, a new Batmobile. Because if there's one thing this hero does best, it's blowing up cars, and always coming back in style. Gotham may have its share of urban legends, but none quite as absurd as the fiasco known as Sidney Debris, a low-level con artist who, by sheer accident, yes, actual accident, becomes the man who killed Batman. The feat? While clumsily running from a police bust, Sid knocks the Dark Knight off a burning building straight into a cinematic explosion. The underworld, always quick to crown a new legend, gives him a grand title, Sid the Squid. Problem is, Sid's far too much of a coward to handle the fame. Arrested, then broken out by Harley Quinn, because falling into Joker's hands is even worse. He's dragged straight to the Clown Prince of Crime. Joker naturally doesn't quite buy the story and decides to put it to the test. He stages a heist, and Batman doesn't show up. What if Batman really is dead? That's not a win. That's pure boredom. Without Batman, Joker loses all purpose. So he decides to give the hero a grand funeral, and Sid a dip in acid. But as with every Gotham tragedy, there's always a twist. An unseen force saves Sid at the last second. Desperate, he runs to Rupert Thorne, hoping to escape the city. Thorne, in classic Gotham fashion, thinks Sid is an evil genius posing as a fool. Oh, the irony. Before the execution plan can go forward, Batman emerges from the shadows, knocks everyone out, and reveals the truth. The death was staged. Sid was just the lab rat used to lure out the true mastermind. And so, Sid ends up behind bars, but for the first time in his life with street cred. After all, he's the guy who killed Batman and fooled the Joker. In Gotham, that's worth more than a diploma. Between one mystery and another, Bruce Wayne decides to catch a magic show, and ends up pulled into a memory from the past. A young apprentice named Zatanna, and her legendary father Zatara, the man who taught him the art of escape. Back when Bruce still went by John Smith, before becoming the bat-obsessed Night Avenger. In the present, Zatanna's act goes off script when the $10 million meant to vanish as part of the trick actually vanish. Accused of theft, Zatanna is saved by Batman, who not not only believes her, but is ready to throw punches until he proves her innocence. Their investigation leads to Montague Kane, a con artist who claims to debunk magicians, but is really just profiting off high-end heists. Batman and Zatanna face off against traps, holograms, and nearly end up in a Houdini tribute act, but a combo of brawling and magic tricks gets the job done. In the end, Zatanna asks him about the mask. He says it's a promise, the kind that hurts. And with a see you around, that sounds more like goodbye. They each return to their own stage. A random ambush puts Batman and Robin face to face with a ghost from the past, or rather, the ghost, Billy Marin, better known to those who truly matter as Tony Zuko. The name alone stops Batman mid-sentence. He sends Robin away, determined to handle it on his own. Classic, this doesn't concern you move. It never ends well. Robin, of course, doesn't buy it. He heads to the Bat computer, hacks through restricted files, and finds the truth. Zuko, the circus, the Graysons, the severed trapeze, the fatal fall, the origin of pain, the wound that never healed. While Batman revisits his own trauma and shakes down half of Gotham's underworld in search of Zuko, Dick Grayson is just a teenager, caught between grief and revenge. And once he uncovers the truth, waiting is no longer an option. While Robin sets off on his personal crusade, the Penguin walks out of prison claiming he's turned over a new leaf. Because of course, every reformed criminal starts by attending Gotham's elite dinner parties. But Gotham's high society has all the warmth of a viper. Veronica Vreeland invites Penguin to her soiree just to laugh at him behind his back. Penguin, naive and oddly endearing for a sociopath, falls head over heels. He believes in love, he believes in her, and during a staged robbery, he even tries to play the hero. When Batman shows up and Veronica stands up for him, we almost believe. Maybe there's hope. But Gotham doesn't do happy endings. Penguin overhears Veronica mocking him and snaps. He kidnaps her and her rich friend, demands a ransom, and locks them up in the sewers. Turns out all he ever wanted was friendship, or something close to it. Batman steps in, saves the day, and hears Veronica admit that maybe she actually fell for him, but it's too late. Meanwhile, during Robin's hunt, we cut to a flashback. Young Dick Grayson faces his trauma. He arrives at a warehouse, finally coming face to face with Tony Zuko. The fight is brutal, fast, one-sided. Zuko nearly kills the boy. Batman arrives just in time, but Zuko slips away again. Robin snaps. He believes Batman let him escape on purpose. Back in the Batcave, Bruce takes off the mask, both literally and emotionally. He shows who he truly is. He explains why he acted alone. Fear, loss, protection. And for the first time, they see each other not as mentor and protege, but as equals in pain. When they track Zuko to the pier, it's the moment of truth. Robin stands one step away from becoming what he despises most, but Batman holds him back, the voice of reason in the midst of rage. And there, between fists, heartbreak, and memories, they solidify what they've always been, a family. Wayne Tech's Tech Gala was in full swing, showcasing its latest airborne beauty, the Raven helicopter, a stealth machine so advanced it could stay hidden even from Lex Luthor's ego. But this is Gotham after all, and true to form, the Penguin decided to crash the party uninvited. He hijacked the shiny new toy with a hack that looked like the work of a bored teenager with too much free time. In the chaos, Bruce Wayne took the brunt of it and ended up blind. Yep, blind. But before anyone could start whispering about early retirement, the billionaire channeled his inner Daredevil DC style and built a helmet that translates radar and sonar data into a digital visual interface. Meanwhile, Mayor Hill, whose approval ratings were in freefall, agreed to pay $100 million to the Penguin, placing all his blind trust in the stolen cloaking technology. But Batman, vision or no vision, showed up in the Batwing and crashed the villain's business meeting, literally. The aerial showdown didn't go so well for the Dark Knight. He had to eject. On the ground, the Penguin tried to gloat, thinking he had the upper hand over a blind Batman. Bad move. With his new helmet and sharpened senses, the Bat hunted him through an industrial complex and proved he could still throw down with his eyes closed. Back at the manor, Bruce finally removed the bandages. Spoiler, his vision's back.
And right now, I've never seen anything prettier.
A not-so-friendly letter arrives straight from Japan. Bruce jets off at the request of Yoru Sensei, his old Zen ninja master from the pre-Batman days. But the one calling the shots now is Kyodai Ken, a bitter ex-colleague who's already been beaten by Batman and now wants to get his hands on an ancient scroll that teaches the way of the Fang. Translation: a ninja technique that can kill with a well-placed flick. Kyodai suspects that Bruce Wayne and Batman are one and the same. Nothing gets past this criminal mastermind. The showdown happens in a conveniently cultural alley, where Bruce offers the scroll's location in exchange for the hostage. The ninja finds out the document is partially scorched, but still contains the dreaded Onamuri technique, or eternal sleep, for those on a first-name basis with tragedy. Kyodai kidnaps Alfred because messing with the butler is always a great idea, and challenges Batman to a showdown in an active volcano. Naturally, there's lava, smoke, and a generous dose of honor-laced metaphors. Kyodai goes in for the kill, but Batman had already protected the exact spot the ninja would strike. The result: one frustrated villain, one intense battle, and a dramatic exit into the volcano's smoky abyss. Yoru, visibly moved, declares that Batman isn't a ninja, he's a samurai, and no, he didn't get a sword for it. Back in Gotham, chaos takes on a more childish form, literally. A little girl named Kimberly has been receiving gifts from an imaginary friend she calls Mojo. Coincidence or not, the city is under siege by an invisible thief straight out of a sci-fi heist movie. The trail leads to a scrapped Wayne tech project involving electrically charged invisible plastic, laced with poison of course, because who needs safety regulations? The culprit is Lloyd Ventress, an ex-con and absentee father who disguises himself as Mojo to visit his daughter, stylishly violating a restraining order with a toxic twist. When his ex decides to move away with Kimberly, Lloyd loses control and kidnaps the child. That's when Batman, guided by his ever-reliable moral compass, steps in. The showdown on a speeding train is the climax of Ventress's delusion, convinced he's untouchable. But justice waits for no man. Batman uses the environment, physics, and a bit of paternal drama to bring him crashing down. As Ventress is taken away in chains, an older shadow begins to stir, delivered straight to the Batcave in the form of a sinister letter. Robin is missing, and the one offering help is none other than Ra's al Ghul. His daughter Talia has also been kidnapped, and the alliance between Batman and the Demon's Head feels more like a deal with the devil. From India to Malaysia, they chase clues like contestants in a globe-trotting combat reality show, but it all leads to the Himalayas, where Ra's reveals his true plan. The kidnapping was a test to see if Batman was worthy, both as an heir and as a son-in-law. The answer? A resounding no. Ra's pushes back, but collapses dramatically on the brink of death. Talia, in desperation, begs for the Lazarus Pit, and since Batman's not one to deny his would-be father-in-law a mystical dip, he and Robin immerse Ra's in the waters, but what emerges is not quite the same man. The rejuvenated Ra's resurfaces, gripped by a brief fit of murderous rage, forcing Batman to save Talia in the chaos. Once he regains his clarity, Ra's makes his final offer. Batman refuses. The result? The fortress goes up in flames, and the Dark Knight and Robin barely make it out alive. Haunted by the word Orpheus, they uncover its meaning. It's a satellite stationed above the Sahara, and yes, it's yet another of Ra's al Ghul's secret bases. The infiltration fails right from the start, and Batman is captured. Cue the villain monologue. Ra's plans to detonate every Lazarus Pit on Earth, wiping out billions in the name of purification. Talia helps Batman escape, leading to a sword fight straight out of a medieval epic. Ra's loses, just as fate demands, and vanishes into the very waters that once saved him. Talia takes control of the League and lets Batman go, but not without a lingering doubt. Is Ra's truly gone this time?
So it's finally over? We've seen the last of Ra's al Ghul?
Looks that way.
As the plane takes off, Gotham returns to center stage, along with a new, well-organized gang that operates like they stepped out of a couple of film. The boss goes by Scarface, a wooden dummy with more presence than most politicians, and his handler, the ventriloquist, seems like nothing more than employee of the month. But Batman quickly realizes it's not that simple. Scarface and the ventriloquist are two split personalities in the same body, each crazier than the other. Scarface's latest plan? Hijack a shipment of platinum, but Batman lays a trap, gets himself captured, and then turns the dummy against his own puppeteer. What follows is a full-blown identity crisis straight out of a soap opera. Scarface accuses his own operator of betrayal, and chaos erupts in their hideout. In the ensuing shootout, both mental and literal, Batman escapes, Scarface gets shredded, and Arnold Wesker, aka the ventriloquist, is taken in for treatment. There's not enough therapy in the world for this, but hey, it's worth a shot. On a night straight out of a noir film, clear skies, calm weather, a lightning bolt crashes down from nowhere, and silences Giannis Stavros, just as he's about to spill the beans on a juicy little secret involving military contraband, the electron discharge cannon. A name like that practically screams eccentric villain involved. The trail leads directly to Maximilian Zeus, a big shot in the shipping industry who's apparently traded bolts for bolts of lightning, because he now genuinely believes he is Zeus. No metaphor here. The man thinks he's the Greek god himself, ruling Gotham from atop his penthouse, which he calls Mount Olympus. Delusions of grandeur danger backed by an unlimited budget. Batman tries the diplomatic route, but Maxie, in his mythological haze, sees the Dark Knight as Hades, the treacherous brother, and like any self-respecting god, he doesn't respond with words, but with goons. The message is clear: challenge Zeus, and you get the lightning. Literally. Cleo, his assistant, and the only one with a shred of sanity left in that marble-walled Olympus, decides to lend Batman a hand. She opens a path for the hero to re-enter the Temple of Delusion, only to find Maxie completely consumed by madness. He unveils his divine weapon, the cannon, now gloriously renamed Zeus's Thunderbolt. Subtlety clearly isn't on the menu. When he realizes Cleo's trying to stop his pyrotechnic spectacle, he decides to sacrifice her. That's right, Maxie goes full Greek tragedy, tying her to the weapon like some mythological martyr, because a proper unhinged villain needs a theatrical setup. Otherwise, what's the point? Batman scales the rooftop, battling every robotic defense Maxie's ego can afford. In the climax, with artificial thunder shaking the skies, the Dark Knight topples the cardboard god and destroys his heavenly weapon. Maxie, of course, is hauled off to Arkham, where he sees the other patients as fellow gods, and in his mind, he's finally made it to Olympus. Not far from there, a much more human kind of corruption unfolds. Elegant as a knife in the back, Rupert Thorne, a big name in Gotham's underworld, is finally arrested. But hold on, it wasn't Batman, it was Gil Mason, the deputy commissioner who shines brighter than a spotlight at a bad movie premiere. Mason becomes an instant celebrity, and like every Gotham star, he gravitates toward the Gordons. But fame comes with a bonus. He accuses Commissioner Gordon of corruption, backed by forged evidence. Yep, Gil's the kind of guy who smiles for the cameras while burying his boss in a prison cell. With her father behind bars and no bail in sight, Barbara decides she's done waiting on heroes' promises. She shows up at a pro-Gordon rally wearing a makeshift costume, and just like that, Batgirl is born, in the middle of a political protest. Robin, of course, takes a cautious approach. Reviewing footage from the rally, he spots a detail worthy of CSI. Mason ducks just before the shots are fired. While investigating, Batman assumes the identity of Matches Malone, his underworld alter ego, to infiltrate Gotham's new crime syndicate. Meanwhile, Barbara, on her own, decides the cape is now a permanent part of her wardrobe. Divided by methods, united by purpose, Robin and Batgirl track Gil Mason to an abandoned subway station, where the curtain finally falls. Mason is working for Two-Face. The plan: frame Gordon for good with a staged escape and install Mason as the new police commissioner. Gotham, where any fool can get promoted. Surveillance turns into a showdown, and Robin joins the fray. An explosion slams the three heroes against the concrete of the tunnels. Batgirl escapes using an improvised grapple, while Batman and Robin search for another way out. Urgency sets the tone. Down at the docks, Two-Face and Mason stage their final act with Gordon tied up. Another media scandal in the making, but Batgirl gets there first and she's done playing games. The fight breaks out, and Two-Face's lucky coin goes flying. Without it, the villain falters. Curtain closed. But the real climax comes with the reveal. Mason pulls off Batgirl's mask, showing Barbara Gordon to her father. A father-daughter surprise, and a new heroine officially steps into the light. Gotham's Dark Knight takes an even more bizarre turn when Clayface returns. Disfigured, unstable, and for the first time desperately mortal. A monster falling apart, saved by a mysterious accomplice. In the Batcave, analysis delivers the verdict. His structure is collapsing. He's literally coming undone. And the only cure? An experimental isotope, MP40, locked away deep inside Wayne Labs. Of course he breaks in, and of course Batman is there to intercept him. But stopping a villain driven by the fear of death is like trying to clean your ear with a cotton swab without making a face. Digging into the villain's past, Batman discovers that his doctor was once a consultant on one of Hagen's films. The connection is more pragmatic than personal. He tracks their new hideout just in time to witness the healing experiment begin. But the interruption turns everything into chaos. Hagen absorbs all the equipment and mutates into a colossal abomination. The fight spills outside, beneath a storm that's anything but metaphorical. The rain starts to dissolve his body. Despite the doctor's pleas, there's nothing left to be done. Clayface disintegrates in the downpour, melting like a dream that should never have existed. As the rain washes away the last traces of tragedy, an exotic gift begins to circulate among Gotham's elite. Gotham's favorite socialite, Veronica Vreeland, returns from her travels handing out handcrafted worry dolls from Central America. Legend has it you whisper your troubles to them before bed and voila, no more worries. Ever the skeptic, Bruce Wayne accepts the token and wakes up feeling refreshed, but also $20 million poorer. Soon, other Gotham millionaires begin behaving like Wall Street zombies, funneling away their fortunes with no rhyme or reason. Batman steps in, and all clues lead back to the tiny dolls. Veronica nearly hurls her jewelry into the sea while in a trance. glance. The mastermind behind the scheme, Jervis Tetch, the Mad Hatter, using microchips hidden inside the dolls to hypnotize his victims as they sleep. In his kitschy lair, Tetch proudly reveals his plan, but when his own henchmen, also under hypnosis, overhear him calling them gutter trash, the spell turns on the sorcerer. Batman intervenes just in time to stop the hypnotized mob from tearing their master apart. And the money? Recovered. The manipulated artisan, freed and cheeky as ever, sends Tetch one final worry doll at Arkham, programmed to make him dream only of an honest life. But honestly, who in Gotham sleeps soundly for long? The night in Gotham only knows one kind of peace, the kind that lasts until the first robbery. This time, the unlucky crooks cross paths with Batman, or almost, because even though he's the best at what he does, he ends up getting thrown off a bridge straight into oblivion. Officially dead, unofficially just battered and concussed, Bruce Wayne drags himself to the only doctor who still treats him like a human being, Dr. Leslie Tompkins. Meanwhile, in the underbelly of morality, Dr. Matthew Thorne, a disgraced surgeon now working for the criminal underworld, lives in the shadow of his brother, crime boss Rupert Thorne, and to secure his survival after being diagnosed with a fatal tumor, Rupert resorts to blackmail. Save my life, and maybe I'll save your reputation. But the dirty game doesn't end there. Since he can't perform the operation alone, Matthew decides to kidnap none other than Leslie Tompkins. The irony? She and Matthew were once med school classmates, along with Thomas Wayne. Yes, that Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father. As Bruce recovers and pieces things together, the sinister plan unfolds underground. After the surgery, Rupert already has plans to dispose of Leslie like a used bandage. But Matthew, in a rare moment of moral clarity, chooses to betray his brother instead of killing an old friend. He fakes her murder and escapes with Leslie across Gotham's rooftops, only to be cornered by armed thugs. Rupert Thorne is arrested. Matthew, now behind bars, receives an unexpected visit from Bruce Wayne. But instead of asking about the criminal world, Bruce only wants one thing: to hear stories about the man who was his father from someone who truly knew him. Gotham is a place where villains' love lives are just as chaotic as their crimes. Clues from a string of poisonings all point to the usual suspect, Poison Ivy. But wait, these days, she goes by Pamela Carlyle, devoted wife, loving stepmom, and supposedly reformed. A picture-perfect suburban life, with just a hint of toxic sap. Bruce, ever the skeptic, decides to trust his instincts, and runs straight into a picture of domestic bliss that's just a little too perfect. Pamela swears she's left crime behind, devoting herself to her children and her therapist husband. But then Dick Grayson goes missing, and of course, a multi-million-dollar ransom demand follows. At the handoff, the twist. The kidnapper is a creature made of flesh and chlorophyll, and when Dick is rescued, the truth comes to light. Literally. Mistress Carlyle's children are plant-based clones, grown from Dr. Carlyle's DNA and shaped by a deeply unstable maternal instinct. Pamela tries one final move, triggering rapid growth in her leafy offspring, but Batman had already prepared the counterstrike, herbicide in the irrigation system. In seconds, the family wilts away like soggy paper. The biggest twist? The Pamela who faced off against Batman wasn't Pamela at all. She was a plant-based copy. The real one? She got away smiling. That suburban happiness she faked? Just another mask. And Batman, despite everything, almost believed it. As Poison Ivy vanishes into the foliage, a scaly monster makes his move to escape. Killer Croc breaks free from a prisoner transport after a train accident and, like a wounded animal, seeks refuge among outcasts, a group of former circus performers now living in isolation. There, he lies like a pro, claims he was one of them, a freak cast out by the world of showbiz, and they believe him. After all, who are they to judge a deformed man? But Batman, with a nose trained to sniff out lies, isn't buying it. He tracks down Croc, only to become the target of the performer's misplaced compassion. Believing they're protecting one of their own, they capture the Dark Knight. The truth only comes out when the monster drops the act. Violent and cruel, Croc tries to kill Batman in front of everyone. When even a child becomes the target of his rage, the illusion shatters. In the final showdown, Batman finds an unlikely ally in Goliath, the group's strongman. Together, they bring the creature down. And when someone asks why betray those who gave him shelter? The answer is cold and blunt.
You said you can be yourself out here, remember? I guess that's what I was doing.
But Gotham finds no rest. A glamorous night at the museum turns into a battlefield when Ra's al Ghul, resurrected and venomous as ever, returns to claim what he believes is rightfully his. He poisons Batman and steals half of an ancient papyrus. The other half of the scroll, Talia al Ghul, torn between love and blood, knows where it is. Together, she and Batman set off on a globe-trotting quest straight out of an Indiana Jones movie, starting beneath an antiquities shop in Cairo. There, they uncover the tomb of Thoth Khepra, an ancient queen queen said to wield power over life and death. But as with all tales involving Raish, this isn't a treasure hunt. It's a race against the end of days. What they find in the tomb isn't a mummy, but an entity, the Legion, offering immortality in exchange for the mind of anyone who dares merge with it. Raish accepts. Of course he does, but eternity comes at a steep price and offers no change. The tomb collapses. Batman cradles the chaos while Talia escapes. And just when all seems lost, it's she who pulls her father from the rubble. Because in the end, even after centuries of betrayal, there's still love in the House of Ghoul. But the world breathes no sigh of relief. Because now, with Raish unleashed and the Legion awakened, Gotham is about to face something worse than death. The return of the old gods. Gotham, a city that feels like it was pulled straight from a noir nightmare, becomes the stage for a legal circus. And guess who's in the center ring? That's right, the Bat himself. Janet Van Dorn, the new district attorney on a moral crusade against vigilantes, decides Batman is the real problem, not the costumed lunatics who unleash laughing gas or turn botanical gardens into war zones. But of course, in true Gotham fashion, she walks right into a trap worthy of a Halloween special, kidnapped by the best or worst of Arkham's alumni. And who's running this insane sideshow? The Joker, naturally, now promoted to judge in a mock courtroom where Batman is the defendant and the villains are the jury. The irony, Van Dorn, who wanted Batman behind bars, now has to defend him, or die trying. Each villain tries to prove the Bat made them what they are, but Van Dorn flips the script like a pro. She unmasks the Mad Hatter, cuts through Joker and Harley's absurd theatrics, and proves that each of them was already a runaway train long before the Bat ever showed up. In the end, the jury finds Batman not guilty, but the Joker, because of course he does, ignores the verdict and calls for execution. That's when the Dark Knight shines. Lights out, shadows move. One by one, the villains fall. Van Dorn, after a near-death experience, finally admits Gotham needs Batman, and for the first time, they're on the same side. The calm lasts shorter than the Joker's sanity. This time, he decides to steal a nuclear bomb and do what any psychopath would, auction it off to the criminal underworld. Batman crashes the auction, but the clown escapes with the bomb. Plan B, call Harley Quinn. Yep, that Harley. In exchange for a pardon, she agrees to help. Obviously, it all goes sideways. The dynamic between the two is a show in itself. Harley sings, flirts, hides clues, and plays everyone like a fiddle. Amid explosions and toxic entanglements, she accidentally lets it slip. The Joker's got his eyes on City Hall. Translation: Mayor kidnapped, evacuation blocked, city held hostage. Batman gets close to unraveling the plan, but Harley, ever the hopeless romantic, lights a flare and runs into the Joker's arms. Batman saves her, of course, but she sees it as a humiliation and turns her guns on her rescuer. Therapy, that'll have to wait. If Gotham were an MMA series, this episode would be UFC, Batman vs. Bane. Rupert Thorne decides to outsource his dirty work and hires a roided-out South American brute with a thick accent, Bane. Before throwing punches at the Bat, Bane does his homework by turning Killer Croc into mashed meat. Batman and Robin soon realize their new foe isn't just muscle. He's the product of a failed military experiment. Meanwhile, Candace, Thorne's secretary with boss lady ambitions, double-crosses her employer and teams up with Bane. The result? Robin gets kidnapped and used as bait. In the ultimate showdown, Bane injects his magic juice and becomes a walking wall of muscle. The fight is brutal, but the villain underestimates corporate drama. Candace is outed as a traitor, and Thorne's empire crumbles from within. Meanwhile, Bruce is left in desperate need of painkillers and a chiropractor. Still recovering from his injuries, Bruce faces a dilemma that can't be solved with fists. Harvey Dent is about to be cured of his duality through a procedure that feels more like a cosmetic surgery ad than real medicine. But this is Gotham, so of course armed men burst in, and Harvey vanishes. Clues lead Batman to a construction site where he discovers the painful truth. Two-Face himself sabotaged the operation. After all, healing Harvey would mean killing his darker half, and that side refuses to die. Explosives planted, coin tossed, chaos unleashed. But then, the coin lands on its edge, literally, and the villain snaps. Robin arrives just in time with the reveal. The coin was switched for a fake. With luck no longer his way out, Harvey is forced to make a choice, and he chooses to be saved. In a rare moment of clarity, he calls Batman by his real name, Bruce, a name, a cry for help, a flicker of the man he used to be. The Riddler returns to Gotham with a fresh face and a shiny new deal with wacko toys. But anyone who knows Edward Nygma knows, this man doesn't quit the game for merchandising. As he promotes his latest puzzles, a string of thefts sweeps the city, and Batman can already smell the deception. With clues hidden in commercials and swapped coordinates, the Dark Knight and Robin get close to catching the Riddler. But when Robin gets injured, Batman chooses to save his partner. The Riddler Riddler celebrates, but his obsession with Batman runs deeper than his ego. In the final trap, Batman is caught in a deadly rest bomb, but he survives, hidden inside a vault. The Riddler loses it, begging for answers, and ends up confessing everything. And of course, it's all been recorded. The criminal genius ends up back in Arkham, tormented by a question far worse than any prison cell. How did Batman escape? And as he spirals into madness, in the shadows of Gotham, a new threat begins to rise. Picture this. You're walking down the street when an adorable little girl asks for help because she's lost. Cute, right? Wrong. That child is Mary Doll, aka Baby Doll, the living nightmare of every canceled sitcom cast. With a thug by her side and a seriously unsettling gaze, she kidnaps a man without batting an eye. Soon, police start sniffing around the disappearance of former stars from an old TV show, and Batman, our favorite emotionally unavailable detective, uncovers the source of the chaos. Mary has a rare condition that prevents her from aging. The result? She's trapped in childhood, not in the sweet, nostalgic way, but more like a twisted version of it. While Batman and Robin foil another kidnapping attempt, Baby Doll escapes disguised as, what else? A sweet little girl. She's still a master of the "I'm just an innocent child" act. The abducted actors wake up on a stage set straight out of an 80s fever dream, forced to reprise their long-forgotten roles. Mary, now fully submerged in her delusion, insists they'll be one big happy family. It's a forced sitcom, script by trauma, direction by abandonment. Batman's detective skills go beyond the cape. He discovers everything revolves around a certain Cousin Spunky, a character the network shoehorned in when Baby Doll's ratings started to nosedive. Guess who's next on her revenge list? Exactly. But when Mary throws the creepiest birthday party ever for him, the one popping out of the cake is none other than Batman himself, dressed as Spunky. The tables turn, and Mary flees to a hall of mirrors, where she finally comes face to face with what she's been avoiding her whole life, her adult reflection. The fantasy shatters, her delusion breaks like a cracked mirror, and for the first time, she cries. Not as a villain, but as someone who stopped lying to herself. But the story's not over yet. Bruce Wayne wins a fancy watch at a charity auction and poof, seconds later, it vanishes into thin air. Back at home, a replay from the security cams reveals a hand moving faster than the Flash's tongue. Of course, Batman knows that move. Temple Fugate is back. The Clock King still hasn't let go of his grudge against Mayor Hill, and this time, he's got a shiny new toy. Dr. Wakati has developed a technology that manipulates time. Naturally, Fugate double-crosses him the moment he gets the chance. Because what's a proper villain without some good old-fashioned betrayal? Batman and Robin, ever ready to get sideswiped by time, head to Wakati's estate, only to be trapped in a bubble where time slows to a crawl. Their ticket out, hacking the Batmobile's own tech to escape a temporal meltdown. They free Wakati, and the scientist drops a bombshell. Fugate's planning to blow up the city's new courthouse with a chronobomb. With no time and zero Wi-Fi, the dynamic duo races back to Gotham using the villain's own time accelerators. Just as the mayor's about to become a mashed-up memory, Batman swoops in to save the day, marking another grumpy villain off the calendar. And speaking of characters trying to start over, Harley Quinn is released from Arkham and swears up and down she's going to live like a normal person. It all starts with a dress, a damn dress with a security tag that sets off the store alarm like it's the end of the world. Panicked, terrified of getting arrested for a fashion faux pas, she kidnaps a socialite, Veronica Vreeland, and steals her car, just because. Batman and Robin give chase, but Harley thinks they're out to ruin her redemption arc. She turns to a gangster, Boxy Bennett, for help, but instead of sheltering her, he double-crosses her and takes Veronica hostage. Classic. In the chaos-packed climax, Harley unleashes her pet hyenas on the gangster and tries to escape with the hostage. Cornered, Harley vents to Batman on a rooftop, saying she just wanted one good day, and he, in that stoic way of his, says he gets it. She surrenders, and back at Arkham, surprise, Veronica drops all the charges. A second chance, maybe the last. A lunatic armed with ketchup and mustard storms into an upscale restaurant. It's the Condiment King. Yes, that's his stage name, but the act ends abruptly when he accidentally electrocutes himself attempting a dramatic exit. Batman recognizes him as Buddy Sandler, a former TV comedian. Soon after, two other comedians vanish under bizarre circumstances. The investigation leads to Arkham, where the Mad Hatter is found in a coma, another victim of mind control. The connection between them? All were judges in a comedy contest. And the villain behind it all? Yes, that's That's right, the Joker, the only guy who takes comedy more seriously than any Netflix special. In the grand finale, Joker declares himself the sole contestant and unveils the missing judges as his zombified puppets. Batman and Robin race to save both the show and the sanity of the kidnapped comedians. The final showdown deserves a standing ovation. Joker ends up trapped inside his own inflatable balloon, and this time, even he's not laughing. While Batman deals with psychopaths and bitter clowns, Batgirl steps into the spotlight, armed with more than just a criminology degree. On a routine night patrol, she intercepts Catwoman in the middle of a heist, or so she thinks. The thief denies it, and with good reason. The break-in has all the signs of a chemical job, not Catwoman style. Robin shows up out of nowhere, and of course, botches the takedown, giving Catwoman the chance to escape. Batgirl proposes an unusual truce. If the thief helps her catch the real culprit, she'll turn herself in. The unlikely duo follows a trail of clues to a shady chemist and runs into a familiar face, Roland Daggett, the crooked businessman framing Catwoman to make a quick buck. In the final showdown, Batgirl stops Selina from committing murder in the name of revenge. Catwoman tries to escape, but she's captured by Batgirl and taken into custody. In the end, even Robin admits, Batgirl was right, and a new partnership is born, one forged in punches, disagreements, and mutual respect. Oh wait, she managed to escape in the police car.
I said I'd let them take me, but I didn't say how far.
The Scarecrow, that lanky ghoul with a PhD in fear, bolts from Arkham like he's seen the devil himself, and that devil is the asylum's new head of security, Lyle Bolton, a name straight out of a bureaucrat's handbook, but with the subtlety of a B-movie dictator. His security methods include psychological torture, electrified doors, and threats that would make Hannibal Lecter look like an amateur. Batman, whose crazy radar is always on point, starts digging into this new employee of the month. Bruce Wayne calls for a public hearing, and the inmates, well, they're quieter than a funeral audience. Harley Quinn, silent. It's only when Arnold Wesker breaks the silence with a list fit for The Hague that the others find their courage. And just like that, Bolton's little house of cards collapses. Like every good villain who thinks he's the hero, he snaps, vowing revenge on Gotham's real criminals, doctors, judges, and politicians who, in his eyes, coddle the bad guys. The fallout, a swift boot out of Arkham, and a pink slip to match. Weeks later, in true, disgraced ex-employee turned supervillain fashion, Bolton re-emerges sporting a third-rate cosplay helmet and a new alias, Lockup. He kidnaps reporter Summer Gleason live on TV, because if you're gonna lose your mind, might as well go national. He contacts Batman directly and makes a not-so-polite offer, team up to clean up Gotham. The Dark Knight, as always, declines any partnership with fascists. Batman's investigation links the locks at the crime scene to Bolton's handiwork. His targets follow a pattern: the reporter, the Arkham psychiatrist, and Commissioner Gordon, all folks who crossed him before his termination. Despite Batman and Robin closing in, Lockup manages to snatch Mayor Hill too, proving that personal security is just a rumor in Gotham. Robin, our boy wonder and resident tech whiz, analyzes a metal fragment and finds it loaded with salt. The deduction? Lockup's lair is on a ship, not just any ship, a decommissioned prison barge where he used to work, because if you're gonna lean into the cliche, go full throttle. In the climax of this madness, Batman and Robin storm the vessel. While the Bat squares off with the helmeted maniac, Robin puts on a coding masterclass, dismantling the entire security system. With the hostages freed, Lockup makes one last pitch for his warped vision of justice. Batman, of course, isn't buying it. The ship goes down, and with it, Lockup's surveillance fantasy. As the heroes escape with the rescued officials, a new shadow stirs in Arkham. Mr. Freeze is dragged from his cell like the grand prize in a twisted reality show, but instead of smugness, he's terrified. And if a guy who literally lives in a cryo bubble is shaking in his boots, you know the villain of the week is no joke. Batman follows the tech trail of the abduction to Carl, a robotics designer who once worked for a cryogenics-obsessed control freak, Grant Walker. The investigation leads to Oceana, a submerged city ripped straight from a billionaire's Atlantis fever dream. Down below, Walker, clearly unfamiliar with the concept of consent, demands that Freeze make him immortal by replicating the very experiment that turned him into the king of cold despair. To sweeten the deal, he reveals his trump card. He's rescued Nora, still perfectly frozen, and claims he has the means to cure her. High-level emotional blackmail. As Batman and Robin approach in the Batwing, they're swatted down by the city's defenses like bugs on a zapper. Walker, now in full James Bond villain mode, announces his plan to freeze the entire planet, a kind of reverse climate change scheme led by a lunatic in a suit and oxygen tube. Freeze, cornered by the icy love of his life, relents. But Batman, ever the master of mind games, plants a seed of doubt.
She'll wake up in a dead, frozen world that you helped destroy.
In the final moment, Freeze rejects the Faustian bargain and destroys the freeze cannon, blowing up the city's reactor in the process. As Oceana turns into a billionaire's underwater tomb, Batman and Robin escape. Freeze does not. He chooses to go down with what's left of his humanity and the woman he loves. And so, from the depths of emotional frost, we rise once again into the concrete jungle of Gotham. With the cold thawed at the bottom of the sea, Gotham is once again boiling, and this time, it's crawling with a new kind of predator, the bored rich. Three playboys donning masks of a fox, a shark, and a vulture kick off a spree of theatrical heists, strutting around like it's an unlimited budget Halloween parade. Bruce Wayne crosses paths with Warren Lawford and his two cronies, the most obnoxious trio since the invention of bro culture. They talk about exotic hunts with the ease most people talk about brunch. Their suited up fun turns to real violence when they break into the apartment of Warren's girlfriend's father, leaving the old man in a coma. As if being rich wasn't bad enough, turns out they're cowards too. Batman investigates and finds the imprint of a fraternity ring on the victim's face. From there, it's a straight line between the animals on their masks and the symbols of their elite lineage, a metaphor as subtle as a sledgehammer. Heirs to the land, the sea, and the sky now want the whole city as their personal playground. Rebecca, Warren's girlfriend, starts putting the pieces together. On their next outing, she finds one of her father's belongings mixed in with her boyfriend's things. He doesn't deny it. In fact, he boasts about it, says they're just toying with the system, psychopaths with trust funds, to silence the only voice of reason in this whole story. They try to throw Rebecca off a cliff, because when you're rich, even attempted murder comes with flair. But Batman and Robin arrive just in time, save the girl, and leash the trio of predators. Even behind bars, Warren sneers, claims he'll hire the best lawyers on earth. In the midst of this meltdown of deranged millionaires, Batman and Robin stumble upon something even more disturbing. Ra's al Ghul's men, scattered like poisoned cockroaches. A bizarre sight, even for someone used to killer clowns. Ra's appears, calm as ever, and leads them to an airfield, where he leaves behind a recorded message, because of course he loves a bit of multimedia drama. In it, we're taken all the way back to 1883, a time of dust, gunfights, and serious mustaches. Enter Jonah Hex, a bounty hunter as ugly as sin but with more justice in his trigger finger than most of Gotham's elite. He rides into a small town tracking Arcadia Duval, your classic era-appropriate megalomaniac. Hex gets caught in a conspiracy involving Ra's al Ghul, Ra's in disguise, who plans to use a war zeppelin to sabotage the railroad and take over America. Duval, Daddy's right-hand man and crazier than a mule kick, becomes Hex's target, but instead of killing him, Hex does what any self-respecting lazy gunslinger would, leaves the lunatic alive just to avoid dragging the body. Back in the present, Batman connects the dots. The old man he was investigating at the asylum is Arcadia Duval, kept alive for over a century thanks to the Lazarus Pit. Ra's then drops the final bomb. Duval is his son. Yep, Gotham's favorite eco-terrorist has an heir, but the kid was so unhinged that even Ra's didn't want to pass on the torch. In the end, Ra's asks to take his son home, postponing his clash with Batman for another time. Because even in a centuries-old war, there's always room for a little family drama. Gotham may be the crime capital of the world, but right now, the real chaos was Selina Kyle's emotional drama. The former Catwoman was trying to live a normal life, which, let's face it, is mind-numbingly dull for someone used to walking the razor's edge. At an ultra-swanky gala at the museum, with none other than Bruce Wayne, the man who wouldn't crack a smile for a selfie, Selina just couldn't handle the snobfest from socialite Veronica Vreeland. She lets loose with a tirade against Veronica's late grandfather, a big-game trophy hunter, the fallout, a classic social faux pas, and a dramatic storm out. But the real trouble began after she stepped outside. Selina barely gets a breath of fresh air before being kidnapped by Scarface and his unhinged ventriloquist. Yep, the gangster puppet himself. He offers her a killer deal: break into the museum, swipe Veronica's jewels, and avenge Grandpa Vreeland's taxidermy victims. Selina, starved for action, takes the bait. Back in the Catwoman game, she pulls off an Oscar-worthy museum heist, even using her pet cat as an accomplice. But the charade falls apart fast. Scarface and his crew are already there, looting the extinct animals. The revenge plot? Just a trap to frame her. Enter Batman, Gotham's most punctual man, right in the middle of the mess. Selina escapes, but not without leaving a trail. When Batman Batman shows up at her apartment, she tosses him a half-truth. "I came to apologize and stumbled into a robbery. Can you believe that?" Of course he doesn't. But still, he goes with her to the museum. There, they uncover the swapped-out taxidermy, and Selina finally realizes she was played. She vanishes again, leaving Batman talking to the walls, but not for long. The next lead takes them to an abandoned sawmill, where Scarface is trying to sell the stolen animals to none other than the Penguin. Chaos erupts into an all-out brawl, with Batman, surprise, showing up just in time. Turns out, he planted a tracker on the cat. Yep, the cat. In the scuffle, Scarface ends up on a conveyor belt heading straight for the saw, and the ventriloquist freaks out in full-blown panic mode. Selina, however, is in full no-mercy mode. She blames the ventriloquist and nearly dishes out Claude Justice herself. Batman stops her, but just barely. Holding the stolen artifact, the last of its kind, Selina gives Batman a choice: arrest Catwoman, or let the relic disappear forever. And just like that, the scalded cat slips into the night, fully embracing her wild side. Harvey Bullock, Gotham's grumpiest detective and the city's #1 Batman hater, is forced to swallow his pride dry. Someone wants him off the map, and trusting his fellow cops? Not even on the table. No surprise there. So he runs straight to the Bat and hands over 5 years worth of case files. The mission: find the would-be killer. The arrest? He'll handle that part himself. Classic Bullock. Down in the Batcave, Bullock's list of enemies reads like Gotham's phone book, but the computer doesn't complain. Back at the detective's apartment, the real conflict is with his landlord, Mr. Nivens, a cranky old man who's long out of patience with Bullock's grumpy hermit lifestyle. Between ambushes, Batman swoops in and saves Bullock's neck, but gets cussed out instead of thanked. Business as usual. Analyzing the threatening notes reveals something odd. They're not trying to kill Bullock, just scare him. Is someone trying to drive him out of town? The Bat computer finally spits out a suspect: Vincent the Shark Starkey, an ex-con with a grudge. Batman digs up intel the Batway, while Bullock pays a visit to reporter Summer Gleason. The rendezvous? An abandoned factory, because in Gotham, every case ends in a cobweb-covered ruin. A brawl breaks out with Starkey and his goons. Fists fly, bones crack, and in the end, Starkey's cuffed. But plot twist: he swears he had nothing to do with the notes. The real culprit? Nivens, the landlord. The plan? Scare Bullock out to free up that rent-controlled unit. Because in Gotham, even real estate disputes turn into full-blown criminal cases. Bullock, slouched in his creaky chair, savors the irony. His greatest enemy lived right next door. Gotham barely has time to catch its breath before trouble brews in the old world. Alfred Pennyworth, the most British butler on the planet, receives a sinister phone call and vanishes like the seasoned spy he once was. In London, it doesn't take him long to realize the men approaching aren't there to chat about tea and crumpets. Captured, he manages to send Bruce a cryptic warning about his delicate situation before the line goes dead. Elite detectives who never take vacations head straight into the London fog. In a ransacked hotel room, they find just enough clues to begin the chase. A breathtaking pursuit through the city's narrow streets leads them to 2 henchmen working for the villain of the hour, Red Talon, a terrorist whose plans are about as subtle as a nuclear bomb. She's plotting to launch a warhead at London from a missile silo disguised as a Gothic castle. The key to doomsday? 2 launch codes, split between Alfred and his cousin Frederick. Frederick hands his over faster than a politician caught in a scandal. Alfred, on the other hand, resists, reciting bizarre poetry until the villain realizes the poetry is the code. With the missile armed, panic sets in. But Batman and Robin are already inside Blair Quan Castle. The final showdown is a thrilling blend of espionage, hand-to-hand combat, and razor-sharp British wit. Alfred, proving that English charm never rusts, takes down goons alongside the Bat and the Boy Wonder. Mission accomplished. Red Talon is captured, the warhead is disarmed, and Alfred politely declines any invitation to return to the spy game. After all, looking after troubled billionaires in Gotham is more than enough excitement, and as London settles down, Gotham waits, because chaos is always just around the corner.